Welcome, curious souls, to the windy streets and neon-lit avenues of Chicago, a city alive with history, culture, and secrets. Beneath the glow of marquee lights and the clatter of applause lie theaters haunted by tragedy, obsession, and restless spirits. Tonight, we explore the 25 haunted theaters in Chicago, where lights flicker alone, where velvet curtains sway without wind, chandeliers shake as if gripped by invisible hands, and ghostly performers take their final bows on empty stages. These theaters are more than entertainment. They are haunted stages where the past refuses to leave the spotlight. The Oriental Theater, standing in Chicago's Loop since 1926, has long been celebrated for its ornate beauty, dramatic performances, and lavish architecture. But behind the golden fixtures, intricate carvings, and glittering chandeliers lies a shadowed history that continues to play out even after the final curtain call. What was once a stage for the world's most glamorous stars has become, for some, a stage for the supernatural. The theater's design alone evokes an otherworldly sense of grandeur. Built during the height of the Roaring Twenties, the Oriental Theater was meant to transport visitors far from the noise and grit of the city. Its interior was adorned with Eastern-inspired motifs, golden dragons, and detailed mosaics that shimmered under dim light. Plush velvet seats and sweeping staircases added to the feeling of luxury. But beneath all that opulence, something else lingered, an unshakable presence that many say has never left. For decades, staff and visitors have whispered of odd happenings inside the theater's cavernous halls. The first reports surfaced not long after the building opened. Projectionists working late into the night claimed to hear footsteps echoing in the upper balconies long after the last patron had gone. Ushers described feeling sudden drafts of cold air, even in the middle of summer. Some said they smelled faint traces of perfume drifting through the aisles, the kind worn by women of a bygone era, rich, powdery, and unmistakably old-fashioned. As the years went on, the stories grew more chilling. Technicians who stayed behind after shows reported lights flickering on and off, spotlights moving of their own accord, and faint voices whispering in the rafters. The sound system would sometimes crackle to life, producing faint laughter or the echo of applause, even when the stage was empty. Cleaning crews swore they saw shadows dart between the rows of seats or glimpsed a figure dressed in white vanishing behind the heavy curtains. The most famous of all the spirits said to haunt the Oriental Theater is that of a young actress named Lydia. According to local legend, Lydia was a rising star in the 1930s. Known for her captivating performances and striking beauty, she dreamed of making her name in a new production set to premiere on the Oriental S stage. But fate, as the story goes, had other plans. Just days before opening night, she was found lifeless in her dressing room. The cause of her death remains a mystery. Some say it was an accident. Others whisper of heartbreak or foul play. Whatever the truth, the show went on, but Lydia's spirit was said to have never left. Those who claim to have seen her describe a woman dressed in a flowing gown from another age, her presence accompanied by the faint scent of jasmine and roses. She's often spotted in a balcony or near the stage, silently mouthing lines as if she's still rehearsing. Ushers locking up at night have heard her faint voice echoing through the empty theater, repeating the same scene over and over. Some say she's waiting for her curtain call that never came. Others believe she's searching for someone who once promised her fame and left her behind. In the years that followed, the theater's ownership changed and its purpose evolved. For a time, it served as a movie house, screening everything from silent films to grand musicals. Later, it was transformed into a space for Broadway shows and live performances once again. Each renovation brought new life to the building, but it never seemed to disturb whatever lingers there. Construction workers have reported tools moving on their own, doors slamming shut without warning, and sudden drops in temperature in the dressing rooms. One worker swore that while alone in the orchestra pit, he heard soft humming that grew louder until it surrounded him, only to stop the moment he stepped onto the stage. Modern visitors continue to experience similar phenomena. Tour guides leading late-night events often mention the feeling of being watched from the upper balcony, even when no one is there. Guests have taken photos that reveal misty shapes or glowing orbs hovering near the stage lights. Others have heard footsteps pacing behind them or seen faint movement in the reflection of mirrors. One patron recounted leaving her seat during intermission to find an elegant woman standing in the aisle, gazing toward the stage. When she turned to speak, the woman was gone, leaving only a trace of vintage perfume in the air. Some skeptics suggest that the building's acoustics and lighting create illusions, echoes of footsteps, the creak of old wood, and flickering bulbs that mimic ghostly signs. Yet, even the most practical minds have trouble explaining the consistency of certain encounters. Employees who know nothing of the theater's haunted reputation often report the same sensations: a sudden chill backstage, the flicker of a shadow crossing an empty balcony, or the faint sound of laughter where no one stands. For many, the idea that the Oriental Theater could be haunted feels fitting. The building was created as a celebration of illusion, emotion, and the suspension of disbelief. Its walls have absorbed nearly a century of performances, applause, joy, and heartbreak. Energy like that, some say, never truly fades. Whether one believes in spirits or not, there's no denying the strange, magnetic atmosphere of the place after dark. When the house lights dim and the audience falls silent, there's a moment of breath between darkness and light when the theater feels alive with memory. The faint click of a shoe on marble, the rustle of silk, the whisper of a line rehearsed one last time. Some visitors claim that if you listen closely, you can hear the echo of applause rolling like a tide, followed by the soft sigh of a curtain drawing closed. The Oriental Theater stands as both monument and mystery, a dazzling reminder of Chicago's artistic past and a lingering question mark in its haunted history. By day, it dazzles with its gold and crimson splendor, welcoming crowds eager for a night of wonder. But by night, when the streets quiet and the chandeliers dim, it becomes something else, a cathedral of echoes, where the living and the dead seem to share the same stage. The Chicago Theater, an emblem of the city's cultural heartbeat since its grand opening in 1921, is as much a symbol of architectural brilliance as it is a repository of stories, both celebrated and spectral. Its iconic marquee, glowing above the loop, has welcomed generations of theatergoers eager to witness Broadway productions, concerts, and cinematic events. Yet behind the glittering lights and ornate plasterwork, the theater holds a darker, quieter history, a legacy of unexplained phenomena that continues to intrigue visitors and staff alike. From the moment one steps into the theater, the sense of grandeur is undeniable. The lobby dazzles with marble, decorative moldings, and a sweeping staircase that seems to ascend into a world of old-world elegance. The main auditorium, with its red velvet seats and gilded arches, stretches toward the ceiling, where a magnificent chandelier hangs like a jewel. The atmosphere is charged, not only with anticipation for the performance to come, but, some say, with the lingering presence of the theater's past patrons and performers. For decades, employees and visitors have reported strange occurrences that defy conventional explanation. Backstage, shadows are said to move independently of anyone nearby. Stagehands have described the sensation of being watched when alone, hearing faint footsteps trailing them even when no one else is present. Doors and curtains appear to shift of their own accord, and lighting rigs flicker at random, as if responding to an invisible presence. These experiences are not confined to one area. The upper balconies, the orchestra pit, and even the dressing rooms are often cited as locations where the supernatural seems most active. One of the most frequently reported phenomena involves the theater's chandelier. Staff have witnessed the massive fixtures sway gently, despite the absence of drafts or vibrations from the street outside. The motion is subtle, almost hypnotic, and always seems to occur during quiet moments late at night or in the early hours of the morning when the theater is empty. Some believe the chandeliers themselves act as conduits, vibrating in response to energy left behind by past events, perhaps echoing the excitement and heartbreak of decades of performances. Visitors occasionally report seeing figures seated in the theater's vintage boxes, dressed in attire from earlier eras. These apparitions appear fully formed, sometimes watching the stage as though a performance is underway, even when the theater is vacant. Patrons have described turning to greet a companion or ask a question, only to find the seat empty. The figure vanished without a trace. The clothing, hairstyles, and posture suggest an era long gone, giving the impression that history itself is replaying within the theater walls. Whispers are another hallmark of the Chicago theater's spectral activity. Staff members have heard soft murmurs echoing from the upper balconies or distant corners of the auditorium. The whispers are often unintelligible, like fragments of conversations from decades past. Some claim they are the voices of performers rehearsing lines, while others believe the murmurs belong to former audience members, eternally revisiting their favorite moments. These sounds can be fleeting, barely perceptible to the human ear, or startlingly clear, leaving those who hear them questioning whether the theater itself is alive with memory. There are also tales of encounters with what appears to be residual energy from tragedies that occurred over the years. The theater has seen accidents, medical emergencies, and even moments of intense emotion among performers and patrons alike. Witnesses sometimes report a sudden drop in temperature, an unexplainable chill that seems to settle over the auditorium. Others have felt an invisible brush, like a hand passing by or a presence sitting beside them, only to find no one in the seat next to them. These experiences are often accompanied by a feeling of weight, a heaviness in the air that seems to press down in silence. Stage managers and longtime employees are particularly aware of these phenomena. Many have learned to move through the theater with a combination of respect and caution, acknowledging the possibility of encounters without fear. Some have even come to regard the experiences as part of the theater's character, an extension of its history that enriches the environment rather than threatening it. They speak of the theater's spirits almost as if they were veteran performers themselves, eternally committed to the stage, yet bound to it in ways that defy explanation. Occasionally, the supernatural activity intersects with the practical demands of theater life. During rehearsals or performances, crew members report lights dimming unexpectedly or props shifting slightly. Microphones may pick up faint, unexplained noises, and stage curtains can flutter as though caught in an invisible breeze. These moments are often fleeting, yet they leave an impression that lingers far longer than the fleeting disturbances themselves. For those who witness them, the theater becomes more than a venue. It becomes a living memory, a place where past and present intersect in quiet, sometimes unsettling ways. Despite all, perhaps because of its haunted reputation, the Chicago theater continues to attract performers, tourists, and locals who are drawn not only to its architectural splendor, but also to its enigmatic history. Late-night tours often include whispered tales of ghostly sightings, shadowy figures, and unexplained sounds. In the end, the Chicago theater is a testament to both human creativity and the mysteries that linger long after the curtains fall. The building itself is a stage not only for performances, but for memories that refuse to fade. The shadows that move in empty corridors, the chandeliers that sway without wind, and the whispers that echo through upper balconies all contribute to a unique atmosphere, one that celebrates the glamour and excitement of live performance, while hinting at the unseen, unexplained forces that inhabit the space. The Cadillac Palace Theater, an architectural gem in Chicago's Loop, has been a cornerstone of entertainment since its grand opening in 1926. Celebrated for its Broadway-style performances, elaborate musicals, and spectacular productions, the theater draws crowds eager to experience the magic of live performance. But beyond its ornate decor and vibrant energy, the Cadillac Palace harbors stories that go beyond the ordinary. Tales whispered by staff and visitors of a presence that lingers long after the final curtain falls. From the moment one steps into the theater, the sense of history is palpable. The lobby dazzles with marble columns, intricate plasterwork, and ornate chandeliers, reflecting the grandeur of the 1920s. The main auditorium, with its plush red velvet seats and gilded balconies, stretches toward a soaring ceiling, crowned by a massive central chandelier that sparkles like a jewel. This architectural elegance is mirrored by the energy of the performances, but for some, There is an invisible layer overlaying the theater, an echo of the past, of those who once worked, performed, and dreamed within its walls. Stories of the theater's hauntings have persisted for decades. Staff members have reported phantom footsteps echoing through corridors long after the last patron has left. Stagehands working late into the night often describe the sensation of being followed by unseen figures, hearing the creak of floorboards in spaces where no one stands. Curtains have been known to sway gently without cause, as if unseen hands are rehearsing stage directions that no living actor can see. Even when the theater is empty, the soft murmur of voices or faint laughter occasionally drifts through the aisles, hinting at a presence that refuses to rest. According to legend, he was a dedicated performer who died tragically during the height of his career. Some accounts suggest an accident backstage. Others hint at heartbreak or disappointment. Regardless of the cause, his presence is said to remain tied to the stage, forever rehearsing his lines. Crew members have reported hearing faint recitations of dialogue, the actor's voice carrying across the empty auditorium as if rehearsing for a performance that will never happen. At times, the sound is so clear that it echoes in the rafters, startling those who happen to be alone during setup or cleanup. The theater's orchestra pit is another hotspot for unexplained activity. Musicians preparing for early rehearsals have described the sensation of being watched from empty seats, of hearing the soft shuffle of feet or the scraping of chairs that belong to no living person. Some have claimed to glimpse shadowy figures moving across the stage or disappearing into the wings, leaving behind a faint, musky scent of old stage makeup and costumes. Even props and set pieces occasionally seem to shift subtly, as if guided by unseen hands. These occurrences are so frequent that staff have come to expect, if not entirely embrace, the theater's unpredictable energy. Audiences have also reported unusual experiences, particularly those who attend evening performances. Patrons in the upper balconies sometimes catch glimpses of figures dressed in vintage attire, seated quietly as though waiting for a show. These apparitions never interact with the living, but their presence adds an uncanny layer to the theater's atmosphere, a reminder that history can linger in unexpected ways. Others have noted the echo of applause after a particularly stirring number, even when the performance has ended and the auditorium is empty. For some, these moments are fleeting and unsettling. For others, they are a poignant reflection of the theater's enduring spirit. Many of the strange occurrences are subtle, yet consistent. Lighting rigs sometimes flicker without explanation, creating fleeting shadows that dance across the stage. Dressing room mirrors catch movement that disappears when approached, and sudden cold drafts sweep through otherwise warm corridors. These phenomena are rarely threatening. They are more often described as playful or persistent, as if the theater itself is reminding staff and patrons alike of the layers of lives and labor embedded within its walls. Longtime employees often speak of the Cadillac Palace's spirits with a mixture of respect and routine acceptance. Stagehands, ushers, and technicians have all recounted similar experiences independently, lending credibility to the tales. For those familiar with the theater's rhythms, a late-night rehearsal or a quiet moment backstage is never truly solitary. The feeling of another presence, always just at the edge of perception, becomes part of the workday, a companion of sorts in the quiet hours. Some even claim that acknowledging the spirits brings a sense of comfort, as if they are guardians of the theater, watching over performances long after the applause has faded. The theater's haunting reputation has not deterred its allure. If anything, it enhances it. Visitors come not only to experience world-class performances, but to sense the invisible threads of history woven through the space. Tour guides recount the tales of phantom footsteps, ghostly actors, and moving curtains, captivating audiences who are intrigued by the notion of lingering spirits. For many, the Cadillac Palace is more than a theater. It is a living chronicle of dreams, ambition, and the echoes of countless performances. Ultimately, the Cadillac Palace Theater exemplifies the unique intersection of art, history, and the unexplained. Its halls and stages are alive not only with the energy of live performances, but with memories, of those who gave everything to their craft. The phantom actor who rehearses eternally, the shadowy stagehands, and the echoing applause remind visitors that the theater is more than a building. It is a repository of lives lived and stories told. The Goodman Theater, located in Chicago's near North Side, has long been a cornerstone of the city's performing arts scene. Since its founding in 1925, the theater has welcomed audiences to witness everything from classic plays to contemporary productions, earning a reputation as a space where art and emotion converge. Yet beneath its polished exterior and celebrated performances, the Goodman harbors a hidden, layered, subtle, persistent presence that has been reported by staff, performers, and visitors alike. Over the decades, stories have emerged of flickering lights, ghostly figures in the wings, and the faint murmur of conversations from a time long past. Many of the theater's supernatural accounts are linked to its backstage areas. During late-night rehearsals, stagehands have reported lights that flicker inexplicably, even when circuits are tested and functioning correctly. The effect is never violent or damaging but creates an eerie ambience, as though the theater itself is responding to unseen energy. Actors waiting for their cues have described the sensation of being watched, a feeling so strong that it can make their skin prickle and their hearts race. Some claim that shadows move independently in the wings, darting across the stage in shapes that do not correspond to any living person. One of the most persistent legends involves the theater's former performers. Over nearly a century of shows, countless actors and actresses have tread its boards, leaving behind more than applause and memories. Some visitors report glimpsing figures dressed in period clothing, appearing at the edges of the stage or among the heavy curtains, only to vanish when approached, and a gaze that seems fixed on the action, as if they are reviewing a performance that no longer exists. The audience areas are not immune to these experiences. Patrons seated in the upper balconies or side boxes have occasionally reported strange sensations, as if unseen eyes are observing them. In quiet moments between acts, faint murmurs can sometimes be heard, like conversations from decades past, carrying the tone of actors discussing lines or stage directions, or ushers coordinating performances long forgotten. These auditory phenomena are subtle, often barely perceptible, but when noticed, they evoke a sense of connection to the theater's long and layered history. Backstage crew members are perhaps the most frequent witnesses to the Goodman Theater's peculiar activity. They have shared stories of props moving slightly, costumes shifting on racks, and sound equipment producing faint noises without input. One technician recounted being alone on stage during a late-night rehearsal when a spotlight flickered repeatedly, casting shadows that seemed to trace movements he did not make. At the same time, he heard soft murmuring from the wing's voices, speaking lines in a tempo and tone that were unmistakably theatrical. Though unnerved, he described a sense of awe as well, as if he were witnessing a trace of the theater's living memory. The theater's charm and historical significance seem inextricably linked to its haunting presence. Founded as part of a growing movement to bring serious drama and quality performances to Chicago, the Goodman has hosted a diverse range of productions, from Shakespearean classics to contemporary plays that challenge societal norms. Each performance leaves an imprint in energy, emotion, and effort that, some believe, does not entirely dissipate when the curtain falls. In this view, the flickering lights, murmurs, and shadowy figures are less a curse and more a reflection of the theater's enduring life. The residue of countless performances accumulated over decades. Visitors often experience the uncanny subtly at first, noticing small things that defy explanation. A chair that seems slightly out of place, a cold draft in a warm room, or a faint scent reminiscent of old stage makeup or polished wood. Over time, these minor occurrences coalesce into a broader impression that the Goodman Theater is not merely a building, but a repository of memory. The sensation of being watched, the whispered voices, the shifting shadows all contributes to a sense that the theater remembers, that it preserves fragments of its past in ways the living can perceive. Some longtime employees have even come to view these experiences as a part of the theater's character. Stagehands, Actors and technicians describe moving through the theater with a sense of respect for its unseen occupants, acknowledging the possibility of lingering presence while continuing their work. For them, the supernatural element is not a source of fear, but a reminder of the theater's history, a connection to the many individuals who contributed to its legacy. The Goodman Theater, in this sense, is both a place of performance and a living archive of human creativity and emotion. Tours of the theater occasionally include mentions of these phenomena, intriguing visitors who are drawn to the idea of a space where the past is not entirely gone. Guests learn about the flickering lights in the rehearsal rooms, the shadows in the wings, and the whispers that seem to echo from eras long past. Whether they experience these events firsthand or not, the stories contribute to the theater's mystique, enriching the overall experience and reminding everyone that a theater is more than its structure. It is a vessel of countless human stories. In the end, the Goodman Theater embodies the intersection of art, history, and the unexplained. It stands as a testament to decades of dedication, talent, and passion, and to the indelible marks left by those who performed and worked within its walls. The shadows in the wings, the flickering lights, and the murmured lines are reminders that the theater's legacy is alive, not only in memory, but in presence, for performers, staff, and visitors alike. The Goodman is a space where time can feel fluid, where the past continues to coexist with the present, and where the echoes of countless lives and performances continue to shape the atmosphere of one of Chicago's most storied theaters. The Harris Theater, located in the heart of Chicago's Loop, is celebrated as a vibrant space for performing arts, lectures, and community events. Since its opening in 1978, the theater has welcomed performers ranging from emerging artists to established ensembles, earning a reputation for both excellence and versatility. Yet beyond the polished floors, glass facades, and meticulously arranged seating, the Harris Theater is known to some as a place where the living share the space with something unseen. Stories of moving shadows, phantom applause, and sudden cold drafts have persisted for decades, creating a subtle but persistent sense that the theater is never truly empty. Staff members are often the first to notice unusual occurrences. Stagehands, ushers, and technical crews report witnessing shadows shifting along the walls and across the stage, even when no one else is present. These figures are rarely distinct, often appearing as fleeting shapes or glimpses at the edge of vision, but their presence is unmistakable. Crew members describe the sensation of being watched, a quiet awareness that someone or something is observing every movement. Some have felt brushes of air against their skin, sudden chills that sweep across the stage, leaving goosebumps in their wake, despite the theater being sealed against drafts. Phantom applause is one of the most frequently reported phenomena at the Harris Theater. Staff working late nights or attending after-hours rehearsals sometimes hear faint clapping echoing through the auditorium. The sound begins softly, almost imperceptibly, then builds in intensity before fading as suddenly as it appeared. For those present, it can be both eerie and captivating, as if the ghosts of past audiences are expressing approval for performances long concluded. These moments often coincide with quiet rehearsals or solo run-throughs, lending an odd energy to the otherwise empty hall. The stage itself seems to hold particular resonance. Performers recount instances where the curtain shifts slightly, as if stirred by invisible hands. Props have been reported moving on their own, sometimes appearing displaced after rehearsals, even when no one has been in the room. Some actors feel a sudden presence in the wings, catching glimpses of figures dressed in clothing from eras long past, lingering as if they are still preparing for a performance. While most sightings are subtle, they leave a lasting impression, a lingering sense that the theater retains more than the physical traces of its activity. Visitors have occasionally sensed the unusual atmosphere of the Harris Theater without any visual confirmation of a presence. Audience members seated near the front of the house or inside boxes sometimes report a sudden chill, a feeling of being observed, or a faint echo of voices or laughter from somewhere far behind the stage. These sensations are often fleeting, yet they are described with remarkable consistency. Many say that, even during performances, When the theater is alive with sound and movement, a certain energy persists, an intangible layer beneath the surface of the performance itself. Longtime employees often regard the theater's unusual activity with a mixture of respect and curiosity. Stagehands who have worked at the Harris for decades recount similar experiences independently, reinforcing the impression that these occurrences are neither isolated nor purely imaginary. For them, the theater is not merely a venue but a living space, imbued with the memory of every rehearsal, performance, and audience interaction. The shadows, clapping, and sudden chills are understood less as threats and more as reminders that the theater carries with it the echoes of countless events and emotions. Some have attempted to rationalize the experiences, attributing them to architectural acoustics, air circulation systems, or the natural settling of the building. While these explanations may account for certain phenomena, they fall short of explaining the consistency and specificity of the reported encounters. The shapes seen in peripheral vision, the precise timing of phantom applause, and the feeling of presence in otherwise empty spaces suggest something more than mechanical or environmental factors. For staff and performers, the experiences are often embraced as part of the theater's character rather than dismissed outright. The Harris Theater's reputation as a haunted space adds an unusual dimension to its role in the community. While primarily a site for performances, lectures, and civic gatherings, the theater's subtle paranormal activity has drawn curiosity from those intrigued by the unexplained. Stories of shadowy figures, unexpected applause, and sudden cold drafts circulate among staff, visitors, and enthusiasts alike, becoming part of the theater's lore. These accounts do not overshadow its cultural significance. Instead, they enrich the theater's narrative, layering history, mystery, and artistry into a single experience. Even after more than 40 years of operation, the Harris Theater continues to surprise those who enter. Late-night rehearsals, after-hours, technical checks, and quiet evenings in the auditorium often yield moments that cannot be easily explained. The flicker of shadows along a curtain, the soft echo of invisible applause, the sudden chill in a warm room, these events are subtle, fleeting, but unmistakable to those present. They suggest a presence that is neither malevolent nor intrusive, but persistent, a reminder that the theater retains the memory of all who have performed, observed, and labored within its walls. The theater's architecture may play a role in amplifying these experiences. High ceilings, polished floors, and reflective surfaces create unique acoustics and subtle light patterns, while the open spaces of the stage and auditorium allow even minor disturbances to carry in ways that seem almost deliberate. Yet the human element cannot be ignored. The Harris Theater exists not only as a building, but as a repository for emotion, effort, and memory. Every performer who has walked its stage, every audience member who has responded with laughter, tears, or applause, contributes to an invisible record that persists long after the physical performance ends. Ultimately, the Harris Theater embodies the intersection of art, history, and the unexplained. Its walls, stage, and seats have witnessed decades of performances and events, and with them, countless human experiences. The subtle shadows, phantom applause, and chilling drafts are reminders that the theater is more than a venue. It is a living archive, preserving the energy and emotion of generations. For performers, staff, and visitors, the Harris Theater offers not only entertainment and cultural enrichment, but also a connection to the lingering echoes of those who came before, a silent chorus of presence that continues to share the stage. The Steppenwolf Theater, nestled in Chicago's Lincoln Park neighborhood, has earned a reputation as one of the city's premier venues for contemporary theater. Since its founding in 1974, the theater has been a launching pad for innovative productions, renowned actors, and critically acclaimed performances that push boundaries and challenge audiences. Yet alongside its artistic acclaim, Steppenwolf has developed an equally compelling reputation for unexplained phenomena, drawing the attention of performers, staff, and visitors who report encounters that cannot be easily explained. The The theater's architecture is unassuming compared to some of Chicago's grand performance spaces, but it is designed with intimate sightlines, narrow hallways, and multiple levels of dressing rooms and rehearsal areas. These features create a unique atmosphere where every corner, corridor, and backstage space seems alive with energy. For some, that energy is more than metaphorical. Stagehands, actors, and visiting performers alike have reported seeing shadows moving along hallways, figures pacing where no one stands, and fleeting glimpses of what appears to be someone watching from the wings. Flickering lights are among the most frequently reported occurrences at Steppenwolf. Dressing rooms, rehearsal spaces, and backstage corridors sometimes experience sudden, inexplicable changes in illumination. Lights may dim or strobe for brief moments, often coinciding with late-night rehearsals or when a single performer is alone on stage. Some actors describe these fluctuations as synchronized with their movements, as if the theater itself is responding to their presence. In one notable instance, a performer recounted preparing for a monologue when a series of lights above the stage flickered rhythmically, casting shifting shadows that seemed to mimic the gestures of the actor's hands. The effect was disorienting, yet oddly captivating, creating an impression that something unseen was sharing the performance. Actors have also reported a persistent sensation of being watched from the wings, even when no one else is present. This awareness is subtle, at first a prickle at the back of the neck, a fleeting sense of presence, but it can grow intense during moments of solitude or concentration. Some performers have described the feeling of unseen eyes following their movements, as though a phantom audience is observing their every step. Others claim to have heard whispers or murmurs echoing faintly in the empty hallways, words they cannot quite comprehend but which carry the cadence of theatrical rehearsal or backstage conversation. Shadows are another hallmark of Steppenwolf's supernatural reputation. Staff members and actors often describe shapes moving along corridors, flitting at the edges of vision, or passing through doorways where no one could be present. These shadows are rarely fully formed. They are more impressions of human figures, sometimes tall and indistinct, sometimes smaller and fleeting. One longtime crew member recounted walking to the lighting booth late one evening when a shadow moved across the hallway ahead of him, stopping briefly before vanishing into a dressing room. The room was empty, yet the sensation of being observed lingered for minutes afterward. The theater's backstage and rehearsal areas seemed particularly active. Stagehands report props and set pieces occasionally shifting from their positions without explanation. Costumes sometimes appear disarranged after rehearsals, even when staff are certain no one else has entered the room. In some instances, microphones or sound equipment have produced faint noises, clicks, hums, or whispers when no signals are active. While these events are subtle and often brief, their cumulative effect contributes to the theater's reputation as a space where the ordinary and the unexplained coexist. Despite, or perhaps because of its paranormal reputation, Steppenwolf remains a deeply respected and widely visited theater. Audiences are drawn to its productions for the quality of the performances. Yet staff and actors often report that the building itself carries a palpable energy. Some longtime employees have come to accept the presence of the unseen as part of the theater's character, viewing the shadows, flickering lights, and subtle whispers not as threats, but as echoes of the theater's history and the countless performances that have shaped its identity. For them, these phenomena are a reminder of the continuity between past and present, a silent audience that has lingered through decades of artistic endeavor. Visitors occasionally experience the theater's unusual atmosphere, even in the audience. Some report an inexplicable chill in certain seats or a sudden feeling of being observed, particularly during quiet moments between scenes. Others have glimpsed movement from the corners of their eyes, only to find the aisles and balconies empty when they turn. These experiences are typically brief and subtle, but they leave a lasting impression, adding a layer of mystery to the overall theater-going experience. The theater's intimate design, with its narrow corridors, multiple levels, and enclosed spaces, may amplify these experiences. Acoustics, lighting, and reflective surfaces can create illusions that enhance shadows and sound. Yet many of the reported phenomena remain difficult to explain solely by architectural features. The consistency of the experiences across performers, staff, and visitors suggests that something more intangible may be at play, a resonance of past events, energy left behind by decades of rehearsal and performance, or the theater itself retaining the memory of those who have occupied it. For many who work at Steppenwolf, the sense of lingering presence is both eerie and inspiring. Some actors report that the awareness of unseen observers sharpens their focus, adding a subtle edge to their performances. Crew members often move through the halls with a mixture of caution and respect, acknowledging the possibility of other presences while performing their duties. The theater, in this sense, becomes a space where the living and the unseen coexist, sharing the stage in a manner that is both subtle and profound. Ultimately, the Steppenwolf Theater exemplifies the intersection of creativity, history, and the unexplained. Its spaces are alive not only with the sound of dialogue, music, and applause, but also with echoes of past performances, lingering energy, and unexplained phenomena. Shadows pacing hallways, flickering lights in dressing rooms, and the sensation of being watched from the wings are reminders that the theater carries memory and presence beyond the immediate experience of those on stage. Victory Gardens Theater, nestled in Chicago's Lincoln Park neighborhood, is celebrated for its dedication to contemporary and socially conscious theater. Since its founding in 1974, this intimate venue has been home to innovative productions, experimental plays, and performances that challenge both performers and audiences alike. Its smaller size, compared to Grand City theaters, creates an intimate atmosphere where every whispered line, every gesture, resonates strongly. But along with its creative energy, Victory Gardens holds a quieter, more mysterious presence. For decades, staff, performers, and visitors have reported experiences that defy explanation. Whispers in rehearsal rooms, sudden cold touches, flickering lights, and a sense of unseen eyes observing from the hallways. The theater's design contributes to its unique aura. Narrow corridors, compact dressing rooms, and low-ceilinged backstage areas make the space feel close and personal. Performers often describe a sense of immediacy in their connection with the audience. But it is in these same corridors and rehearsal rooms that many report sensing a presence not of the living. Stagehands and actors alike have recounted instances of hearing whispered voices when no one else is around. These murmurs are often faint, carried as though through the walls themselves, and sometimes resemble rehearsed lines from long past performances. The voices appear to echo from an earlier time, blending with the theater's own memories to create a subtle, chilling effect. Cold touches are among the most unsettling phenomena at Victory Gardens. Actors report feeling a hand brush lightly against their shoulders, or a sudden chill sweep over their backs as they move through the rehearsal space. One performer recounted preparing for a late-night scene when a cold pressure rested on her shoulder, as if someone were leaning in close to watch her practice. Turning quickly, she found no one behind her, yet the sensation lingered for several minutes. Crew members have experienced similar encounters, feeling cold drafts or brief touches while moving props or checking lighting, even when doors and windows are firmly closed. Lighting anomalies are also a hallmark of the theater's unusual occurrences. In rehearsal rooms and on stage, lights sometimes flicker without cause. These fluctuations are often subtle, at first a bulb dimming, a strip light flickering, but can become more pronounced during quiet moments or when someone is alone in a room. Performers have described the sensation that the lights themselves are responding to the presence of an unseen audience or a guiding hand, as though the theater itself is aware of the human activity within it. In some cases, the flickering seems to coincide with heightened emotion, whether during a dramatic rehearsal or a tense backstage moment, reinforcing the sense that the building retains an imprint of human energy. Many stories point to a figure thought to be the spirit of a former director. Longtime staff speak of a presence that roams the hallways, moving from rehearsal room to stage with a quiet authority. The figure is rarely seen in full, often perceived only as a shadow or fleeting movement at the edge of vision. Those who claim to feel the director's presence describe a peculiar combination of discipline and attentiveness, as if the unseen figure is ensuring that the work is done properly, silently observing rehearsals and performances. Actors and stagehands often sense a weight of expectation, an unspoken standard, even when the theater is empty. The theater's intimate nature amplifies these experiences. Its small size and close quarters mean that even minor sounds, shifts in light, or fleeting sensations are felt keenly. Crew members working late often report that the building feels alive in a way that is both comforting and unnerving. A quiet hallway can suddenly echo with a whisper. A rehearsal room may seem colder than the rest of the building, or a light may flicker precisely when tension in a scene peaks. These subtle occurrences, repeated over years and across different productions, have created a collective awareness among those who work at Victory Gardens that the theater is not simply a passive space, but one imbued with history and presence. Visitors occasionally experience these unusual phenomena as well. Patrons arriving early for performances or touring the theater report, feeling a sense of being observed, or noticing fleeting shadows that vanish before a second glance. Some have heard faint echoes of conversation from empty rehearsal rooms, whispers that seem almost intelligible, but vanish before they can be fully understood. These experiences are often subtle, yet they leave a lasting impression, enhancing the theater's reputation as a place where the line between the living and the unseen is thin. The persistence of these reports suggests that the theater's energy is shaped by more than architecture or acoustics alone. For decades, performers, directors, and crew have poured passion, emotion, and creativity into every inch of the building. It is possible, as some believe, that the theater itself has absorbed these energies, retaining traces of those who worked tirelessly to bring stories to life. The cold touches, flickering lights, and whispers may be manifestations of this accumulated presence, echoes of lives and labor intertwined with the fabric of the theater. Despite or perhaps because of its haunted reputation, Victory Gardens Theater continues to thrive. Artists are drawn to its intimate, charged atmosphere, which offers both a challenge and a source of inspiration. Staff and performers navigate the building with a blend of respect and routine acceptance, acknowledging the possibility of unseen presences while continuing their work. The theater's reputation for subtle paranormal activity has become part of its character, a quiet layer beneath the daily rhythm of rehearsals, performances, and community events. Ultimately, Victory Gardens Theater exemplifies the unique intersection of art, memory, and the unexplained. Its walls, corridors, and rehearsal spaces carry the imprints of decades of performances, rehearsals, and creative energy. The whispers in rehearsal rooms, the cold brushes against shoulders, the flickering lights, and the presence of a former director's spirit all serve as reminders that the theater is more than a building. It is a living archive of human experience. For performers, staff, and visitors alike, Victory Gardens offers an environment where creativity coexists with the subtle echoes of history, and where the unseen presence of the past is felt as acutely as the applause of the present. The Apollo Theater in Chicago's Bronzeville neighborhood stands as a storied landmark, celebrated for its deep roots in music, performance, and community. Since its establishment, the theater has hosted countless artists, from jazz musicians to theatrical performers, becoming a hub for culture and creativity. Its stage has seen moments of triumph, nights of electric performance, and celebrations of human talent. Yet, intertwined with this legacy of artistry is a quieter, more mysterious presence, one that many visitors, performers, and staff have sensed over the decades. The Apollo is a place where the past seems to linger, its echoes sometimes reaching into the present in ways that are subtle, chilling, and profoundly moving. The theater's historic architecture contributes to its unique atmosphere. Ornate detailing, expansive wooden floors, and an auditorium designed for intimacy and resonance create an environment where sound and movement carry in unexpected ways. Within this space, stories of paranormal activity have persisted. Flickering lights are among the most commonly reported phenomena. Staff members recount that during late-night rehearsals or after-hours maintenance, Lights sometimes dim or flash without explanation. These flickers are often localized, an overhead bulb in the dressing room or a row of lights above the stage, but their timing can feel uncanny. Performers have described moments when lights seem to respond to their movements, flickering as if acknowledging their presence, amplifying a sense that the theater itself is alive with memory. The movement of objects within the Apollo is another hallmark of its reported activity. Chairs, props, and music stands have been observed shifting slightly from their original positions. Crew members have recounted moments when, after checking the stage or rehearsal rooms, items appear subtly displaced, as though someone or something has passed through. These shifts are rarely dramatic, but they are consistent enough to create a palpable awareness among staff that the space may not be entirely unoccupied, even when the theater is empty. In some instances, performers preparing for a late rehearsal have felt a sudden brush or pressure near them. Fleeting visitors occasionally report sounds that cannot be traced to any source. Laughter, applause, or soft murmurs of conversation have been heard emanating from the auditorium when no audience is present. These auditory phenomena often occur during quiet periods, after a rehearsal has ended, during early morning setup, or late at night, when only a skeleton crew remains in the building. The laughter is sometimes described as jubilant, echoing the joy of past performances, while at other times it is tinged with melancholy, as though recalling moments of triumph and tragedy alike. These sounds leave a lingering impression, creating an uncanny sense that the Apollo remembers its history, reverberating with the experiences of those who once stood, performed, and listened within its walls. The spirits reported at the Apollo are often thought to be those of past performers, artists who gave their lives to the stage and whose presence remains tied to the theater. Many staff and performers describe feeling watched from the wings, sensing invisible eyes tracking movements across the stage. Shadowy forms have been glimpsed at the edge of vision, disappearing when approached, yet leaving an impression of lingering energy. Some performers claim that their own movements are subtly mirrored by unseen figures, a reflection of dedication and artistry that continues beyond death. The sense is not typically threatening, rather, it carries the weight of expectation, the desire to be acknowledged and recognized, a silent audience that never truly leaves. The Apollo Theater's reputation for paranormal activity has become part of its identity, complementing its cultural and historical significance. Longtime employees speak of the theater's energy with a mixture of respect, curiosity, and routine acceptance. Stagehands, musicians, and performers acknowledge the strange phenomena without fear, often interpreting them as a reflection of the theater's rich history. In their view, the flickering lights, shifting chairs, and unexplained laughter are not accidents or malfunctions, but manifestations of the theater's long and layered past. They suggest that the Apollo holds memory within its very walls, a repository of passion, talent, and human emotion that continues to interact with those who enter. The theater's intimate design intensifies the perception of these supernatural elements. Narrow hallways, low-ceilinged dressing rooms, and a closely arranged auditorium mean that even subtle sounds or movements are immediately perceptible. A creaking floorboard, a fluttering curtain, or the faintest echo of applause can be startling in such proximity, lending credibility to the accounts of both staff and visitors. For many, these experiences are moments of awe rather than fear, a chance to feel connected to the generations of performers whose lives and energy have left an imprint upon the space. Audiences sometimes share in these experiences, often without realizing it. Patrons arriving early or leaving late have reported fleeting glimpses of movement in empty seats or the sensation of being observed from a row of chairs behind them. The combination of historical significance and reported supernatural activity adds an extra layer of fascination, deepening the connection between audience, performance, and the theater itself. Many feel that the energy of past performances is still present, subtly influencing the atmosphere in a way that is both inspiring and disconcerting. The persistence of these reports over decades suggests that the theater's legacy is not limited to its architecture or cultural impact, but extends to something intangible, The lives, efforts, and artistry of countless performers appear to have left traces that linger. The Apollo's walls, stage, and wings seem to carry memory, as if the building itself refuses to forget. Every flickering light, every chair moved, every echo of applause acts as a reminder that the theater is more than a venue. It's a living archive of human expression. The new Regal Theater in Chicago's Bronzeville neighborhood stands as a living monument to the city's vibrant history of jazz, vaudeville, and African-American performance. Built in 1928, the theater became a cultural hub, hosting legendary musicians, dancers, and entertainers whose performances drew crowds from across the city. Its opulent interior, complete with grand balconies, ornate plasterwork, and a soaring ceiling, reflected the grandeur of an era when live entertainment was a centerpiece of community life. Yet beneath the glamour and applause lies a quieter, more mysterious legacy. Over the decades, performers, staff, and visitors have reported experiences that suggest the past is never truly gone, that the new Regal continues to resonate with echoes of its storied history. Many of the theater's reports center on shadowy figures. Witnesses describe seeing forms glide along the balconies or drift through the aisles during shows and rehearsals. These shadows are rarely clear or fully defined, often appearing as fleeting shapes at the edge of vision, moving with a grace that seems in rhythm with unseen performances. Staff members recount moments when they look up during a quiet rehearsal and see a figure standing near the upper balcony, watching the stage before vanishing without a trace. The presence is not perceived as threatening. Rather, it carries the weight of history, a reminder of the countless performers and audience members who once filled the theater with life and energy. Phantom music is another hallmark of the new Regal's mysterious reputation. Several witnesses have reported hearing faint piano melodies drifting through empty rehearsal rooms or along deserted corridors. The sound is often described as lively and melodic, evocative of jazz standards or vaudeville tunes, though no instrument is being played. One former pianist recounted entering the theater after hours and hearing an unmistakable melody from a piano in the corner of the stage. When she approached, the keys were still, yet the music persisted for several minutes, filling the room with an eerie yet beautiful resonance. These auditory phenomena are often accompanied by the sensation that the theater itself is alive, responding to the energy of those within it or replaying memories of performances long past. Cold drafts are frequently reported during both rehearsals and public shows. Audience members have described sudden chills that sweep across the auditorium, seemingly originating from no particular source. Performers on stage sometimes feel unexpected breezes along the wings or across the floorboards, a sensation that can be startling in an otherwise controlled environment. Stagehands report the same phenomena when checking the lighting or preparing props in empty rooms. These cold currents are fleeting but persistent, lending the impression that the theater carries an invisible presence moving through its spaces, observing, interacting, and lingering where the energy of past performances remains strongest. The balcony areas, in particular, seem to be hotspots for supernatural activity. Staff have noted shadows appearing and disappearing along the upper levels, sometimes seen from the stage or from the main floor. Patrons who arrive early for performances occasionally glimpse fleeting movement above them, only to find the balcony empty moments later. The consistency of these sightings has led many to speculate that the balconies, which once held enthusiastic audiences and performers, retain some form of memory, capturing traces of joy, excitement, and anticipation that refuse to fade with time. Many performers and crew members describe a sense of being observed during rehearsals and shows. This awareness is subtle at first, a tingling sensation at the back of the neck, a fleeting feeling of attention, but can grow intense, especially in moments of vulnerability or creative focus. Actors report that lines can feel as if they are being heard by an invisible audience, or that movements on stage are mirrored by unseen figures in the wings. Some musicians have felt a presence near a piano, as though past performers are offering silent guidance or critique. This connection, while often eerie, is also inspiring. reinforcing the theater's role as a space where history and creativity intersect. The theater's architecture amplifies these experiences. Its high ceilings, polished floors, and reflective surfaces allow sounds and shadows to travel in ways that create unusual sensory effects. A creaking floorboard can echo like applause, a flickering light can cast moving shadows, and the acoustics of the space can transform a single note into a lingering presence. Yet the repetition and consistency of experiences across decades suggest that something beyond architecture is at play. Staff, performers, and visitors alike have reported similar phenomena independently, adding weight to the belief that the New Regal holds an intangible legacy within its walls. The New Regal Theater's reputation for lingering presences has become part of its identity. Staff members, from stagehands to ushers, have learned to work alongside the subtle manifestations of history, whether it is a flickering light, a cold draft, or a shadow moving along the balcony. Performers often embrace the theater's peculiar energy, interpreting it as a connection to the generations of artists who came before them. These phenomena are rarely frightening. Instead, they are seen as reminders of the theater's enduring spirit. The echoes of passion, talent, and dedication that continue to inhabit the space. Visitors occasionally sense this presence as well. Patrons report fleeting glimpses of movement in peripheral vision, faint echoes of music from empty rooms, or sudden chills that pass through the auditorium. These experiences add a layer of mystery to the theater-going experience, enhancing the sense that the New Regal is more than a performance venue. It is a living chronicle of creativity, memory, and emotion. The theater's ghosts, if they can be called that, are less about fear than continuity, a way in which the past asserts itself gently in the present. Ultimately, the New Regal Theater is a place where history, performance, and the unexplained converge. Shadows gliding along balconies, cold drafts sweeping through the auditorium, and phantom music from unplayed pianos all speak to the theater's enduring legacy. These phenomena remind performers, staff, and audiences alike that the theater is not merely a building but a repository of memory, a space where the energy of past artists continues to resonate. The echoes of jazz, vaudeville, and countless performances persist, quietly inhabiting the hallways, wings, and balconies. In every flicker of light, every brush of cold air, and every fleeting shadow, the New Regal stands as a testament to the enduring power of art and the presence of those who made it unforgettable. The Mercury Theater, located in Chicago's Lincoln Park neighborhood, is a small yet historic venue celebrated for its dedication to intimate, cutting-edge performances. Founded in the mid-20th century, the Mercury has hosted countless productions that range from dramatic plays to experimental works, earning a reputation for fostering both emerging talent and established artists seeking a personal connection with the audience. While the theater's intimate size enhances the closeness between performers and spectators, it also seems to intensify the stories of paranormal activity that have surrounded the space for decades. Staff, performers, and visitors alike report experiences that suggest the theater carries more than just the energy of live performance. It holds echoes of those who once worked and performed within its walls, refusing to vanish completely. Flickering lights are among the most commonly reported phenomena at the Mercury Theater. During rehearsals, actors and stagehands often notice lights dimming or pulsing inexplicably, sometimes in sequence and sometimes in isolated flashes. These fluctuations frequently occur in dressing rooms, backstage corridors, and near the stage itself. Moments when performers are concentrating on their craft or preparing for a scene. Some performers describe the effect as unnerving at first, the changing illumination drawing attention to the space around them and creating an uncanny feeling of being watched. Others, however, have come to accept the flickering lights as part of the theater's character, an intangible connection to past performances that lingers in the present. Shadows moving across empty halls are another hallmark of the Mercury's spectral reputation. Staff have recounted glimpsing dark figures flitting along corridors or behind doors where no one could possibly be present. These shapes are rarely fully formed. They are impressions of human figures, fleeting and indistinct, often vanishing when approached. One stagehand described walking toward the lighting booth late one night when a shadow seemed to glide across the back wall of the rehearsal hall, disappearing just as he reached the corner. The experience left a lingering sense of awareness, as though the space itself were acknowledging his presence. For those who work at the theater regularly, these subtle movements are often interpreted as reminders that the Mercury is more than just a physical structure. It is alive with memory. The backstage areas of the Mercury Theater are frequently cited as hotspots for unexplained activity. Former actors and crew members speak of an almost palpable presence lingering near costumes, props, and set pieces. Some performers claim to feel invisible eyes tracking their movements while they prepare for scenes, a sensation that can be both unnerving and motivating. Others have reported subtle, untraceable sounds, the soft rustle of fabric, the creak of floorboards, or the faint echo of voices discussing lines or stage directions. These sounds are rarely loud or intrusive, but their presence is consistent enough that many who work in the theater have learned to expect them, treating them as a quiet accompaniment to rehearsals and performances. Many of the reported phenomena are attributed to former performers and stagehands who may still linger in the theater. Actors speak of a feeling that someone unseen watches from the wings or from the upper levels of the theater, silently observing each rehearsal and performance. Crew members often sense a presence while adjusting lighting or preparing sets, feeling that the unseen figure is monitoring their work. While these spirits are rarely described as threatening, they are said to carry an air of expectation, as if the dedication and discipline of past performers continued to hold sway over the Mercury. The theater's design amplifies these experiences. Its small size, low ceilings, and narrow corridors mean that even minor sounds or subtle movements are immediately perceptible. Floorboards creak in ways that echo. Drafts can feel like gentle brushes against the skin, and shadows are thrown into sharp relief under stage lights. Performers have reported that these elements, combined with the theater's atmosphere, make it feel as though the building itself is attuned to human activity, replaying echoes of performances long past. The Mercury, in this sense, functions as a repository for memory and emotion, storing the energy of all who have walked its stage. Audience members occasionally experience the theater's unusual energy as well. Patrons arriving early or leaving late have reported glimpses of movement from the corner of their eyes, or fleeting shadows in empty halls. Some have felt a sudden chill while seated in the auditorium, as though the temperature itself is responding to the presence of unseen figures. Others hear faint murmurs or echoes of applause from empty rehearsal rooms or hallways. These experiences are subtle but consistent, leaving a lasting impression and reinforcing the Mercury's reputation as a space where the boundaries between the living and the unseen are thin. For many who work at the Mercury, the theater's spectral reputation is woven into the fabric of daily operations. Stagehands, ushers, and actors move with a combination of awareness and acceptance, acknowledging the possibility of unseen presences while continuing their work. Rehearsals proceed, lighting is adjusted, and sets are prepared, all while staff remain mindful of the theater's quiet energy. These phenomena are rarely feared. Instead, they are understood as part of the Mercury's character, a manifestation of the space's history and the passion of those who dedicated their lives to performance. Ultimately, the Mercury Theater exemplifies the intersection of art, history, and the unexplained. Its walls, corridors, and stage carry the weight of countless performances, rehearsals, and moments of creative energy. The flickering lights, shifting shadows, and subtle sounds serve as reminders that the theater is more than a venue. It is a living archive, preserving the memory and presence of those who performed, directed, and worked there. For actors, crew, and visitors alike, the Mercury offers not just entertainment, but a connection to a lineage of creativity and dedication. A space where past and present coexist in subtle, sometimes unsettling ways. The Auditorium Theater, located in Chicago's Loop, is one of the city's most iconic and historically significant performance spaces. Built in 1889 by the architectural firm Adler and Sullivan, it was designed as a marvel of engineering and artistry. combining a grand auditorium, intricate plasterwork, and advanced acoustics that continue to impress visitors today. Over more than a century, the theater has hosted a multitude of performances, from classical concerts to Broadway productions, and has seen its share of triumphs, tragedies, and unforgettable moments. Yet, alongside its celebrated history, the Auditorium Theater has gained a reputation for ghostly activity, with staff, performers, and visitors reporting phenomena that suggest the building holds memories of the past in a tangible, often eerie way. Flickering lights are among the most commonly reported occurrences during rehearsals, performances, or even late-night tours. Chandeliers and wall sconces sometimes dim or pulse without explanation. The flickers are often localized, affecting only certain sections of the auditorium. Yet they create a dramatic effect, casting moving shadows that ripple across the stage and audience areas. Actors preparing for a scene have described moments when stage lights flicker in rhythm with their movements, as if the theater itself is interacting with their performance. Stagehands and technicians report similar experiences, noting that electrical systems are routinely inspected and found to be functioning correctly, leaving no mechanical explanation for the disturbances. Ghostly figures in the balconies are another frequent report. Visitors and staff have described seeing shadowy forms seated in empty boxes or moving along the upper levels where no one is present. These figures are rarely fully defined, often appearing as silhouettes or glimpses at the edge of vision, yet they create a strong impression of presence. Some witnesses claim to have seen performers in period attire, perhaps remnants of the theater's earliest audiences, quietly observing rehearsals or performances. The figures vanish when approached, leaving only the sensation of being watched and the lingering echo of presence. The theater's stage has long been a focal point for spectral activity. Some performers and audience members claim to have seen ghostly dancers gliding across the boards, moving with grace and precision, as if continuing a routine from decades past. These apparitions are described as fleeting and delicate, appearing for a moment before fading into the shadows of the auditorium. One actor recounted rehearsing a particularly emotional scene when she noticed a pair of dancers performing silently at the edge of the stage, only to vanish when she blinked. The presence of these figures is often felt as a quiet inspiration rather than a threat, as though the theater itself is honoring the dedication and artistry of those who once graced its stage. Audible phenomena add to the theater's haunted reputation. Faint applause from unseen audiences is a recurring report, often heard when the auditorium is empty or during rehearsals when no one else is present. The sound is rarely loud or intrusive, but carries the warmth and resonance of genuine appreciation, echoing through the balconies and corridors. Some staff interpret these sounds as the theater's memory of past performances, a lingering response from audiences long gone, while others consider it a subtle encouragement, a ghostly acknowledgement of the work happening on stage. Occasionally, other noises are reported: soft whispers, footsteps, or the faint rustle of costumes, particularly in the wings and backstage areas. These auditory experiences, though subtle, create a sense that the theater's history is always present, actively interacting with the living. The Auditorium Theater's architecture seems to amplify these experiences. Its high ceilings, polished wooden floors, and ornate, reflective surfaces allow sound and light to travel in unusual ways, creating subtle echoes and visual distortions. A creaking floorboard, a flickering chandelier, or the movement of shadows across the stage can be magnified, giving ordinary occurrences an uncanny quality. The intimacy of the seating, combined with the theater's vast scale, allows even faint disturbances to be noticed, enhancing the impression that the space is alive with memory and presence. Staff and performers who work regularly at the theater often develop an acceptance of these unusual experiences. Stagehands, technicians, and actors describe navigating the building with awareness and respect, acknowledging the possibility of unseen observers while continuing their work. Rehearsals proceed, sets are moved, lights are adjusted, and yet there is an underlying sense that the theater itself is watching, that it carries with it echoes of countless past performances. These presences are rarely threatening. Rather, they seem tied to the memory of effort, talent, and dedication. A quiet but powerful imprint left on the space over more than a century of activity. Audience members occasionally sense the theater's lingering energy as well. Patrons arriving early or leaving late have reported fleeting glimpses of movement in the balconies, unexplained chills, or the sensation of being observed. Some hear applause from empty seats or faint echoes of music and dance that cannot be traced to any source. These subtle interactions with the past enhance the theater-going experience, reminding visitors that the auditorium is not merely a performance space, but a living archive of human creativity and emotion. The persistence of these experiences over decades suggests that the theater's history is more than architectural or cultural. It is also spectral. Every rehearsal, performance, and audience reaction contributes to a dense network of memory and energy that seems to linger in the building. Flickering lights, ghostly figures, phantom dancers, and echoes of applause act as reminders that the theater holds a living connection to its past. A place where time layers itself so that the present and the past coexist simultaneously. Ultimately, the auditorium theater embodies the intersection of history, performance, and the unexplained. Its grand stage, ornate balconies, and storied halls carry not only the echoes of countless performers and audiences, but also the subtle presence of those who remain tied to the space. Flickering lights, ghostly spectators, spectral dancers, and unseen applause serve as a constant reminder that the theater is more than a building, yet is a living vessel of memory, artistry, and human presence. For staff, performers, and visitors alike, the auditorium theater offers an experience where history is palpable, where the energy of past performances can still be felt, and where the line between the living and the unseen remains intriguingly thin. The Biograph Theater in Chicago's Lincoln Park neighborhood is a building steeped in history and notoriety, a landmark whose past is as captivating as it is haunting. Constructed in the early 20th century, the Biograph was originally a vaudeville house before transitioning into a movie theater, a place where the community gathered for entertainment, laughter, and escape. Its ornate facade and intimate auditorium created a space where audiences felt closely connected to the stage or screen. And over the decades, the building has been witness to countless performances, premieres, and historic moments. Yet beyond its architectural charm and cinematic legacy, the Biograph Theater is known for a different kind of presence, one that lingers quietly, unseen yet undeniably felt within its walls. Visitors, staff, and theater enthusiasts have reported a range of strange phenomena that suggest the building's history has left more than memories. It has left spirits. Shadows that move independently are among the most commonly reported occurrences. Patrons and staff alike have described seeing dark shapes shifting along aisles or near the stage, figures that seem to move with intent rather than being caused by passing people or shifting light. These shadows often appear fleetingly, disappearing when directly observed, leaving only the impression that someone or something is present. Theater employees recount walking down empty hallways or between rows of seats and sensing movement just beyond the corner of their vision, a presence that vanishes when they turn fully toward it. For many, these shadows are unsettling, yet they are also a constant reminder of the theater's long and layered history. A place where countless souls once gathered to witness entertainment, excitement, and sometimes tragedy. Flickering lights are another hallmark of the Biograph's spectral activity. During screenings or after-hours rehearsals, ceiling fixtures, sconces, and even projection lights occasionally pulse or dim without explanation. Technical checks reveal no malfunctions, leaving observers to wonder whether the building itself is responding to unseen forces. These flickers often occur at moments of emotional intensity, an actor's rehearsal, the climax of a film, or even the quiet of an empty theater, creating a sense that the past is somehow interacting with the present. Visitors have described feeling chills during these moments, a sense that the theater is alive with memory and energy, echoing the countless hours of performances and audience reactions that have taken place within its walls. Cold spots are frequently reported in the theater's aisles and seating areas. Staff and patrons alike have felt sudden drops in temperature in otherwise warm spaces, sometimes concentrated near the back rows, along the aisles, or beside the stage. Performers and technicians working late often describe walking through these areas and feeling a pressure, a sensation of being observed by unseen eyes. The cold is rarely frightening in itself, but carries a palpable weight. A reminder that the theater's energy extends beyond the living occupants and reaches back to those who once filled the building with sound, motion, and life. The spirits reported at the Biograph are believed to include both performers and patrons from decades past. Actors recount the sense of being watched during rehearsals, as if former performers linger near the stage or behind the curtains, silently observing their work. Stagehands have reported hearing footsteps along empty aisles or behind the projection booth, and some have even sensed a subtle echo of applause or murmur of appreciation from unseen audiences. Visitors occasionally report glimpsing figures seated in rows of chairs, dressed in period clothing, only to find the seats empty moments later. These manifestations are rarely threatening. They seem instead to reflect a continuation of the theater's long history, a quiet reverence for those who once occupied its spaces. The Biograph's architecture contributes to the perception of supernatural activity. Its low ceilings, narrow corridors, and reflective surfaces allow sound and movement to travel in unexpected ways. Floorboards creak as if in response to unseen steps, and shadows cast by chandeliers and sconces can create optical illusions that make the space appear inhabited even when it is empty. These structural features, combined with the weight of history and collective memory, amplify the impression that the theater is alive, carrying the presence of both performers and audience members who once walked its halls. Visitors who experience the theater's peculiar energy often report a heightened awareness of time and presence. Entering the auditorium or walking along the aisles, they describe a sensation of stepping into a layered space where past and present converge. The rustle of clothing, a whispered laugh, or the flicker of lights can feel like echoes from the early 20th century. A reminder that the theater has witnessed generations of performance, excitement, and occasionally, tragedy. Even patrons unaware of the Biograph's haunted reputation often find themselves sensing something unusual, an awareness that the space carries more than just a physical history. The persistence of these reports over the years suggests that the Biograph Theater is more than a building. It is a vessel of memory and energy. The shadows, flickering lights, and cold spots are subtle but consistent, hinting at the presence of spirits tied to the theater by passion, routine, and perhaps even unfinished business. Staff and performers have come to navigate these phenomena with respect and awareness, incorporating them into the fabric of daily operations while recognizing that the theater's unusual energy is part of its identity. Ultimately, the Biograph Theater in Lincoln Park exemplifies the intersection of history, performance, and the unexplained. Its corridors, aisles, and stage carry the weight of countless performances and audience reactions, while shadows, flickering lights, and cold spots serve as reminders that the past is never truly gone. For staff, performers, and visitors alike, the Biograph offers an experience where memory and presence are palpable, where the echoes of applause, laughter, and footsteps continue to inhabit the space. In every shadow that glides across the aisles, in every unexplained flicker of light, and in every sudden chill, the theater maintains a connection to its history, preserving the spirit of those who once performed, watched, and lived within its walls. The Uptown Theater in Chicago's Uptown neighborhood stands as a monument to the city's golden era of cinema and live performance. Opened in 1925, it was once the largest theater in Chicago, designed to accommodate thousands of patrons in an atmosphere of opulence and grandeur. Its soaring ceilings, ornate moldings, and expansive balconies made it a palace of entertainment, drawing audiences for vaudeville acts, silent films, and later, Hollywood premieres. Over the decades, countless performers, technicians, and patrons have passed through its doors, leaving behind more than memories. The Uptown Theater is renowned not only for its architectural beauty and historic significance, but also for its enduring reputation as a place where the past lingers in mysterious and sometimes unsettling ways. Phantom footsteps are among the most frequently reported phenomena at the Uptown Theater. Visitors and staff alike have described hearing the distinct sound of footsteps echoing through empty hallways or along the main auditorium, often when no one is present. These footsteps vary in pace, sometimes slow and deliberate, at other times hurried, as if someone is moving purposefully across the floor. Stagehands working late at night have recounted pausing mid-task, listening to the creak of footsteps above or behind them, only to find the corridors completely empty. Patrons who arrive early for events sometimes notice the same sounds, fleeting but unmistakable, leaving a lingering sense that the theater itself remembers its history and those who once moved within it. Flickering lights are another hallmark of the Uptown Theater's haunted reputation. Chandeliers sway slightly, sconces dim or brighten without reason, and stage lights occasionally pulse during rehearsals or screenings. Despite technical systems being fully functional, these occurrences often coincide with quiet moments in the theater, late rehearsals, after hours, cleaning, or even the pauses between performances. Actors and crew members have described a sensation that the lights are responding to their presence, as if the theater is aware of activity and interacting in subtle, ghostly ways. The unpredictability of these flickers adds to the theater's eerie ambience, reminding those present that the building holds a history far beyond its visible walls. The balcony boxes, once reserved for the city's elite and prominent patrons, are frequently cited as locations of spectral activity. Witnesses describe seeing shadowy figures seated in these boxes, sometimes standing to observe the stage below, only to vanish when directly approached. Some figures are glimpsed in vintage attire, their outlines reminiscent of an earlier era, while others appear as mere silhouettes, their form indistinct but undeniably human. Patrons and staff alike report an unshakable feeling of being watched from these elevated positions, as if the theater retains the energy and presence of generations of spectators and performers. These apparitions, though often brief, contribute to a strong sense that the past continues to occupy the space alongside the present. Performers themselves sometimes experience the most vivid manifestations of the theater's lingering energy. Several actors and dancers have reported seeing ghostly figures practicing on stage long after a rehearsal has ended or the audience has departed. These apparitions move with precision, as though rehearsing for a show that will never be performed, their motions deliberate and rehearsed. Some performers have felt an invisible presence guiding them, subtly influencing their movements or prompting a sense of attention from unseen observers. Stagehands have noted that props and set pieces occasionally shift from their positions, as if the phantom performers are interacting with the environment in the same way they did in life. These accounts suggest that the theater's history is not just preserved in memory, but actively replayed in subtle, persistent ways. The architecture of the Uptown Theater enhances these unusual experiences. Its expansive auditorium, high ceilings, and reflective surfaces allow sound to travel and echo in ways that can amplify even minor disturbances. Floorboards creak naturally, but the echoes are often mistaken for footsteps, while shadows cast by ornate chandeliers or balcony railings can create fleeting, human-like forms in dim lighting. These physical characteristics, combined with the weight of history, produce an environment in which the past can feel vividly present, allowing ghostly phenomena to manifest in ways that are both subtle and unnerving. Cold drafts are frequently reported throughout the theater. Patrons and staff have felt sudden chills along the aisles, in empty hallways, or near the stage. These temperature drops are fleeting but intense, leaving a sensation of presence or touch that is difficult to ignore. Crew members working late have described feeling a hand graze their shoulder or a cold breeze pass across their necks while performing routine tasks, contributing to the theater's reputation as a space inhabited by more than just the living. The cold is rarely perceived as harmful, but carries with it a tangible weight, a reminder of the building's deep connection to those who once lived and worked within it. Audience members occasionally experience the theater's mysterious energy, even without witnessing any figures or hearing footsteps. A subtle feeling of attention, a sense of being observed from the shadows, or an inexplicable emotional resonance can create an almost tactile link to the theater's past. The combination of flickering lights, moving shadows, phantom performers, and cold drafts gives visitors an awareness that the Uptown Theater is more than a physical structure. It is a vessel for memory, emotion, and history, continuing to resonate with energy long after the final curtain has fallen. Staff and performers who regularly inhabit the theater have learned to respect and accommodate its spectral reputation. Stagehands move with awareness, performers rehearse with sensitivity to unseen presences, and technicians remain mindful that lights and sounds may interact with more than just the living. The phenomena are rarely frightening. They are seen as part of the Uptown's identity, a tangible connection to its rich legacy of entertainment, drama, and artistry. Ultimately, the Uptown Theater exemplifies the intersection of history, performance, and the unexplained. Phantom footsteps echo through its hallways, lights flicker mysteriously, and ghostly figures inhabit the balcony boxes and stage. Performers appear to practice eternally, preserving the energy and dedication of those who once filled the space with life. For staff, patrons, and visitors, the Uptown Theater offers more than entertainment. It provides a connection to generations of artists, spectators, and history itself, a space where the living and unseen coexist, ensuring that the echoes of its past remain ever present. The Congress Theater, located in Chicago's Logan Square neighborhood, is a grand and storied venue whose history is as remarkable as it is tragic. Opening its doors in 1926, the theater quickly became a landmark for live performances, film screenings, and community events. Its towering marquee, ornate interior, and vast auditorium once drew thousands of patrons eager to experience vaudeville shows, musicals, and the magic of early cinema. Over the decades, the Congress Theater has witnessed both triumph and calamitous fires. Accidents and structural failures have marked its timeline, leaving behind not only historical scars, but also a reputation for paranormal activity. Visitors, staff, and performers alike report experiences that suggest the theater's past lingers in ways that are at once fascinating and unsettling. One of the most common phenomena reported at the Congress Theater is flickering lights. Patrons and staff alike have noticed chandeliers dimming and brightening without cause, stage lights pulsing unexpectedly during rehearsals, and sconces along the auditorium walls casting erratic shadows. These occurrences are often most pronounced in empty or quiet areas of the theater, such as during after-hours inspections or rehearsals without an audience. Technicians have checked the electrical systems extensively, finding no malfunctions, leaving many to believe that the flickering is a response to unseen presences within the theater. Performers have recounted moments when stage lights dimmed in rhythm with their movements, as though the building itself were interacting with the performance, echoing energies left behind by countless artists over nearly a century. Cold spots are another hallmark of the theater's haunted reputation. Guests and staff frequently report sudden drops in temperature along aisles, near the stage, or in the upper balcony areas, even when the theater is otherwise warm and quiet. These chilly areas often leave a lingering sensation of being observed, prompting shivers that have nothing to do with the building's air conditioning. Stagehands working late at night have described walking down empty corridors when they feel a cold brush of air sweep past them, sometimes accompanied by a sense of pressure, as though unseen eyes are tracking their movements. For many, these cold spots are tangible reminders that the Congress Theater is more than just brick, plaster, and wood. It is a vessel that holds memory, emotion, and perhaps remnants of the lives once intertwined with its stage and seats. Shadowy figures pacing the aisles are a frequent element of the theater's reported supernatural activity. Visitors have described seeing dark, humanoid shapes moving with deliberate purpose, seemingly independent of anyone present. These forms often appear fleetingly, glimpsed from the corner of the eye, and vanish when directly observed, Staff members have recounted instances of turning down an empty aisle only to find a shadow lingering near the balcony, only for it to disappear entirely moments later. The consistency of these sightings across decades suggests a lingering presence, perhaps tied to performers, patrons, or even victims of the theater's unfortunate accidents. These figures are rarely threatening, yet their presence is profoundly felt, creating an atmosphere in which the past and present coexist in tangible ways. The stage itself is a focal point for spectral phenomena. Some performers report seeing ghostly apparitions enacting routines or delivering lines long after rehearsals have concluded, as if continuing shows for an invisible audience. One dancer described practicing alone late at night when she glimpsed figures moving gracefully across the stage, mimicking the motions of long-past performances. These apparitions are often described as both precise and elegant, as though their dedication to craft remains unbroken despite the absence of a living audience. Stagehands occasionally report props shifting slightly or curtains moving as if caught in an unseen breeze, further reinforcing the sense that the theater is still alive with activity long after its patrons have gone. The theater's turbulent history contributes to the energy that seems to linger. Fires and accidents throughout its past left physical and emotional scars, and some believe the spirits of those affected continue to inhabit the building. Patrons have described the feeling of tension in certain areas, as though the space is preserving moments of tragedy alongside those of joy and celebration. The combination of the theater's architecture, high ceilings, expansive balconies, reflective surfaces, and its historical weight creates an environment where sounds and shadows are magnified, making fleeting phenomena feel immediate and undeniable. Visitors often report a heightened awareness of presence within the theater, even if no ghostly figures are seen. The sensation of being watched, coupled with subtle changes in temperature, flickering lights, and unexplained movements, creates a palpable atmosphere of anticipation. Some describe feeling the energy of past performances echoing through the hall, as if applauses, footsteps, and laughter from decades past have been preserved within the building's walls. These experiences enhance the theater-going experience, making every visit feel like a journey into both history and the unknown. Staff who worked regularly at the Congress Theater have adapted to its haunted reputation with a mixture of respect and routine. Stagehands, technicians, and performers acknowledge the possibility of unseen presences while carrying out their duties, moving sets, adjusting lighting, and preparing the stage with awareness of the building's unusual energy. The phenomena are rarely interpreted as threatening. Instead, they are considered a part of the theater's identity, a reminder of its long and often tumultuous history. Even performers who feel observed or see fleeting apparitions often find the experience inspiring, as though the dedication of those who came before is encouraging them to give their best work on stage. Ultimately, the Congress Theater embodies the intersection of artistry, history, and the unexplained. Phantom footsteps echo along empty aisles, lights flicker without mechanical cause, and shadowy figures move through the balconies and hallways. On the stage, ghostly performers may continue rehearsing for an audience that no longer exists, preserving a dedication to craft that transcends time. For staff, visitors, and performers, the theater is more than a venue. It is a repository of memory, a space where the energy of the past persists alongside the present, ensuring that the stories, tragedies, and triumphs of the building's history remain ever alive. The Logan Theater, nestled in Chicago's Logan Square neighborhood, is a cherished venue for independent films, live performances, and community gatherings. Established in the early 20th century, it has long been a space where audiences come to experience stories told on screen and stage. Away from the bustling crowds of mainstream cinemas, its intimate auditorium, vintage decor, and unique architectural touches create an atmosphere that is both nostalgic and inviting. Yet beneath its cinematic charm and artistic energy, the Logan Theater carries an unusual reputation. Visitors, staff, and performers have reported paranormal phenomena over the years, suggesting that the theater's history and energy linger in ways that cannot be entirely explained by electricity or acoustics. One of the most frequently reported phenomena at the Logan Theater is flickering lights. Patrons often notice chandeliers and wall sconces dimming or pulsing during screenings, rehearsals, or quiet moments when the auditorium is empty. Stagehands and technical staff have checked wiring and fixtures repeatedly, yet no malfunctions have been found. The flickers often occur at seemingly random intervals, sometimes coinciding with moments of high emotion on screen or during dramatic passages of a performance. Some visitors have described feeling a subtle awareness in the room when the lights fluctuate, as if the theater itself is acknowledging their presence. These flickering lights add a haunting dimension to the theater's ambience, casting shadows that seem to dance along the walls and floors. Shadows moving independently are another hallmark of the Logan Theater's paranormal reputation. Guests and staff alike have reported seeing dark shapes gliding along hallways, across empty aisles, or just beyond the edges of vision. These forms are often fleeting, disappearing when directly observed, yet their movement is deliberate, sometimes pacing as though tracing the paths of former patrons or performers. One staff member recounted walking through an empty hallway late at night when a shadow passed silently in front of a door, vanishing moments later as if it had never been there. The presence of these figures, though rarely frightening, creates a palpable sense of life lingering within the theater, a reminder that the building holds memories and energy beyond what is seen in the present. Sudden chills are another common occurrence in the theater's hallways and seating areas. Visitors walking alone or staff performing after-hours tasks have described abrupt drops in temperature, often accompanied by the sense of being observed or followed. These cold spots are intense but fleeting, leaving a lingering impression that unseen forces are present. Some performers have felt the chill sweep across the stage or the wings as they rehearse, an experience that is both eerie and strangely invigorating, as if the theater's history is participating in the performance. These moments are rarely explained by drafts or HVAC issues, reinforcing the impression that the Logan Theater is more than just a physical space, is a repository of past energy, memory, and presence. The theater's architecture contributes to the perception of supernatural activity. Its narrow hallways, reflective surfaces, and low ceilings allow sound, shadow, and light to behave in unusual ways. Footsteps echo with a resonance that can make empty corridors feel alive, while shadows cast by sconces or flickering lights can create shapes that appear human in form. Even minor creaks in the floorboards are amplified, giving the impression of movement where there is none. These physical characteristics, combined with the theater's long history of performances and gatherings, create an environment where the past can be felt in subtle yet undeniable ways. Staff and performers who work regularly in the Logan Theater have adapted to its haunted reputation with a mixture of awareness and respect. Stagehands navigate the hallways attentively, often pausing when a shadow or flicker occurs, while performers acknowledge the possibility of unseen observers during rehearsals. Technical staff frequently note anomalies in lighting and sound, interpreting them not as faults, but as echoes of the theater's history. The presence of these phenomena is rarely perceived as threatening. Instead, it is understood as part of the theater's character, a manifestation of the lives, emotions, and creativity that have passed through its halls over decades. Visitors occasionally sense the theater's unusual energy, even without witnessing shadows or flickering lights. Patrons describe an intangible sensation of being watched, a subtle tension, or heightened awareness that is difficult to attribute to anything in the environment. Some report hearing faint echoes of footsteps, whispers, or laughter, which seem to emanate from empty spaces, adding to the feeling that the Logan Theater is a place where the line between the living and the unseen is blurred. These experiences, while often subtle, leave a lasting impression, giving the theater an air of mystery that complements its independent, artistic spirit. The persistence of these experiences over the years suggests that the Logan Theater is more than just a venue for film and performance. It is a space where history and memory are preserved, where the energy of past patrons and performers continues to interact with the present. Shadows pacing, flickering lights, And sudden chills are not isolated incidents, but recurring phenomena, a reminder that the theater's past remains woven into its fabric. Many who work or visit there come to accept these experiences as part of the theater's identity, a living connection to its layered history and the creativity it has fostered. Ultimately, the Logan Theater embodies a unique intersection of artistry, history, and the unexplained. Its flickering lights, moving shadows, and chilling moments serve as subtle reminders that the building is more than just a physical structure. It's a repository of memory, energy, and emotion. For staff, performers, and visitors, the theater offers an experience where the past is tangible, where unseen presences are felt, and where the echoes of performances long ago continue to resonate. In this intimate and storied venue, every flicker, every shadow, and every sudden chill reinforces the impression that the Logan Theater is alive, carrying the spirit of those who have walked its halls, watched its screens, and performed on its stage. The Biograph Annex in Chicago's Lincoln Park neighborhood is a lesser-known but deeply intriguing extension of the historic Biograph Theater. While the main theater has long attracted attention for its infamous past, the Annex has quietly developed a reputation of its own, one steeped in the unusual and the unexplained. Originally designed as a supplementary space for rehearsals, small performances, and community gatherings, the Annex has seen decades of actors, stagehands, and audiences come and go. Over time, the building's intimate space sits narrow. Hallways, small dressing rooms, and modest stage have become the backdrop for a range of paranormal phenomena, leaving staff, performers, and visitors with stories that hint at the presence of spirits tied to the Annex's past. One of the most frequently reported occurrences in the Biograph Annex is the appearance of phantom performers. Staff and visiting actors have described seeing figures moving across the rehearsal stage, practicing lines or dance routines as if fully aware of an audience. Yet when approached, the figures vanish entirely. These apparitions are often described with remarkable detail, sometimes appearing in period clothing, their movements precise and deliberate. One performer recounted practicing alone late at night when she saw a shadowy figure rehearsing a scene in the corner of the stage. The figure's gestures were measured, almost choreographed, giving the impression that it was continuing a routine from decades past, an echo of someone who had once devoted themselves fully to their craft. Lights behaving independently is another hallmark of the Annex's spectral activity. Staff report that ceiling fixtures and stage lights occasionally dim, brighten, or even flicker in patterns that mimic the rhythm of rehearsal movements. Unlike typical electrical issues, these fluctuations occur without warning and in locations where circuits are known to be functioning normally. Actors have often noted that the lights seem to respond to their presence, dimming as a performance grows intense, or flickering in alignment with a dramatic pause. Technicians who investigate these occurrences consistently find no mechanical explanation, reinforcing the belief that the building itself carries an energy that manifests in subtle, yet undeniable ways. Chairs and furniture shifting on their own is another frequent report. Dressing rooms, rehearsal spaces, and even the stage occasionally reveal moved or rearranged furniture, despite being locked and secured overnight. Staff entering the Annex in the morning have found chairs slightly angled, tables repositioned, or props displaced, as if invisible hands had moved them during the night. One stagehand described entering a dressing room to find a chair slowly sliding backward across the floor, stopping only after he had approached it. These movements are rarely aggressive or alarming, yet they reinforce the impression that the Annex is a space inhabited by lingering presences who interact with the physical world in quiet, subtle ways. Dressing rooms, in particular, have become focal points for the Annex's paranormal reputation. Staff have reported seeing ghostly figures seated or standing in mirrors' reflections, often repeating gestures from decades past. Some witnesses describe watching a figure apply makeup, adjust a costume, or rehearse lines silently. Their movements unnervingly precise. Even when the room appears empty, performers have sensed a presence, feeling the weight of unseen eyes or the faint brush of air as if someone passed nearby. These experiences are often accompanied by cold spots, sudden drops in temperature that add to the otherworldly atmosphere of the space. The combination of visual and sensory phenomena makes the dressing rooms a particularly intense location for those sensitive to the Annex's history. The architecture of the Biograph Annex seems to amplify these experiences. Its narrow hallways, low ceilings, and reflective surfaces create an environment where sound and light behave unpredictably. A minor creak in a floorboard can echo like footsteps in a hallway, while flickering lights cast shadows that appear almost human. Mirrors and glass surfaces multiply reflections, sometimes giving the impression of figures standing in the periphery even when no one is present. The intimacy of the Annex's smaller rooms and close proximity of stage and dressing areas creates an environment where the presence of past performers can feel immediate, almost tangible. Staff who regularly work in the Annex have learned to navigate its unusual energy with awareness and respect. Stagehands, technicians, and performers approach the spaces with a sense of acknowledgement, accepting that the building may contain presences from decades past. While some experiences are startling, many have come to view them as part of the Annex's character, an extension of the theater's long history of performance, dedication, and artistry. In some cases, ghostly activity has even inspired performers, offering a sense of continuity with those who rehearsed and performed in the space long before them. Visitors occasionally experience the Biograph Annex's spectral presence without seeing a figure or feeling a chill. The subtle energy of the space can create sensations of being observed or a heightened awareness of the environment. Some report hearing faint whispers, footsteps, or the rustle of costumes, even when alone. Others notice the inexplicable movement of objects or the gentle flicker of lights in rooms where no one else is present. These experiences, while often understated, contribute to the Annex's reputation as a location where the past and present intersect, where the energy of previous performers continues to inhabit the space alongside the living. Ultimately, the Biograph Annex is a place where artistry, history, and the unexplained converge. Phantom performers, moving lights, shifting furniture, and ghostly figures in dressing rooms all suggest that the building is more than a physical structure. It is a repository for memory, creativity, and the lingering presence of those who dedicated themselves to performance. For staff, performers, and visitors, the Annex provides a unique experience, one in which the past is tangible and the unseen feels intimately connected to the work being done on stage. The Beverly Arts Center, located in Chicago's Beverly neighborhood, is a vibrant hub for performance, music, and community events. Established decades ago, it has been home to countless rehearsals, live shows, and cultural gatherings, attracting performers and audiences from across the city. Its stage has seen aspiring actors and seasoned performers alike, while its hallways, dressing rooms, and corridors have been filled with the hum of preparation, excitement, and anticipation. Yet beyond the center's dedication to the arts, it has developed a reputation for paranormal activity, leaving both staff and visitors with stories of the unexplained, whispers of the past, and experiences that hint at the presence of lingering spirits within its walls. One of the most commonly reported phenomena at the Beverly Arts Center is flickering lights. During rehearsals, stage lights occasionally dim, brighten, or pulse without warning, often in sync with moments of heightened emotion or dramatic gestures. Technicians have inspected the electrical systems extensively, yet no malfunction or irregularity has ever explained these occurrences. Some performers have reported the lights dimming during their solo routines or flickering across the stage in patterns that seem deliberate, as if the building itself is interacting with the performance. These unexplained fluctuations create a sense of presence, subtly reminding everyone on stage and in the audience that the center's energy extends beyond the visible and the ordinary. Ghostly shadows are another hallmark of the Beverly Arts Center's paranormal reputation. Staff and visitors alike have described seeing dark forms moving along corridors or near the stage, shapes that seem to glide silently and with intent. These shadows often appear at the periphery of vision, vanishing when directly observed, leaving a lingering sense that something or someone is present just beyond the light. One dancer reported practicing alone late in the evening when a shadowy figure moved across the far edge of the stage, mimicking her movements before disappearing entirely. For many, these shadows are neither threatening nor malicious, but they serve as a quiet reminder that the building carries traces of the countless performers, technicians, and patrons who have occupied its spaces over decades. Perhaps the most intimate and unsettling experiences reported at the Beverly Arts Center involve the sensation of invisible hands guiding or nudging performers. Actors and dancers have recounted moments during rehearsals when they felt gentle pressure on their shoulders or subtle movements of their arms and hands, as if an unseen presence were offering direction or correction. One pianist described feeling a light touch on the keys during a solo practice, even when no one else was in the room. These interactions are rarely aggressive. They are more akin to a subtle guidance, a lingering influence of spirits who once worked within the theater. Many performers interpret these experiences as the echoes of past artists, invested in their craft and unwilling to leave entirely, still present to assist or inspire those currently occupying the space. The center's architecture contributes to the perception of paranormal activity. Its long corridors, reflective surfaces, and spacious stage areas create environments in which sound, light, and shadow interact in unusual ways. A faint creak in a floorboard can echo like footsteps in a hallway, while reflections from mirrors or polished surfaces can give fleeting illusions of figures where none exists. The intimacy of the Beverly Arts Center, with its narrow backstage areas and close proximity of dressing rooms to the stage, allows performers to feel the presence of past energy in a deeply personal and immediate way. Shadows, light, and sensation combine to create an environment where the past seems to coexist seamlessly with the present. Staff who work regularly in the Beverly Arts Center often approach the building's paranormal reputation with awareness and respect. Stagehands, lighting technicians, and performers have learned to navigate corridors attentively, pausing when shadows flicker or lights dim unexpectedly. Many treat these occurrences not as threats, but as part of the theater's identity, a reminder of its long history, and the dedication of those who once performed within its walls. Some performers even embrace these subtle interactions as inspiration, interpreting invisible nudges or ghostly presences as encouragement to improve their craft, a connection to generations of artists who have come before. Cold spots and sudden changes in temperature are also frequently reported throughout the theater. Patrons and performers have described walking along hallways or standing near the stage when a sudden chill washes over them, often in spaces otherwise warm and comfortable. These cold areas are brief but intense, leaving a palpable impression of presence. Combined with flickering lights and shadowy figures, these sensations reinforce the theater's reputation as a space where the unseen continues to interact with the living. The cold is rarely threatening. Instead, it seems to carry a quiet, persistent energy that serves as a reminder of the theater's layered history. Visitors occasionally experience the Beverly Arts Center's unusual atmosphere, even without witnessing shadows or feeling nudges. The subtle energy of the building can create a heightened sense of awareness, a feeling of being observed, or an emotional resonance that feels tied to the space itself. Some have reported hearing faint echoes of applause, whispered instructions, or the soft shuffle of feet, even when the theater is empty. These experiences, while understated, contribute to the overall sense that the center is more than a physical location. It is a repository of memory, emotion, and artistic energy. Ultimately, the Beverly Arts Center exemplifies the intersection of art, history, and the unexplained. Its flickering lights, moving shadows, and gentle, invisible guidance offer subtle reminders that the building holds more than just walls and a stage. It preserves the energy of performers past, the echoes of rehearsals long finished, and the creative spirit that has animated the theater for generations. For staff, performers, and visitors, the Beverly Arts Center is more than a venue. It is a living space where memory and presence coexist, where past and present overlap in ways that are both haunting and inspiring. Stage 773, located in Chicago's Lincoln Park neighborhood, is a small but historically rich theater that has long served as a venue for independent productions, experimental performances, and community theater. Though modest in size compared to some of Chicago's grand historic theaters, Stage 773 possesses a charm and intimacy that draws performers and audiences alike. Its compact rehearsal spaces, low ceilings, and simple stage design create an atmosphere where every gesture, every whisper, and every note can be felt intimately by all present. Over time, the theater has gained a reputation not only for its artistic contributions, but also for unexplained occurrences that suggest the presence of lingering spirits. Flickering lights, sudden cold drafts, and shadows flitting across walls are frequent reports from those who spend time within its walls, while some performers claim to hear whispers from unseen presences that seem intent on observing or even participating in the creative process. Flickering lights are one of the most commonly reported phenomena at Stage 773. Visitors often notice that overhead lights dim, brighten, or pulse unpredictably during rehearsals or performances. These flickers occur in locations where the electrical wiring has been carefully maintained and regularly inspected, making technical faults an unlikely explanation. Actors rehearsing alone or in small groups have recounted moments when stage lights seem to dim in rhythm with the emotion or intensity of a scene, almost as though the building itself were responding to the performance. Technicians who work behind the scenes have reported similar experiences, noting that lights in dressing rooms or rehearsal areas sometimes flicker even when switches are untouched. These visual disturbances create an unsettling but compelling atmosphere, reminding everyone present that Stage 773 is a space where the past and present coexist in subtle, tangible ways. Cold drafts are another common feature of the theater's unexplained activity. Visitors and staff have described feeling sudden drops in temperature as they move through rehearsal spaces, hallways, and the stage area. These chills are often localized, sometimes confined to a corner of a room or a specific hallway, and can appear even when heating systems are functioning normally. Performers have reported feeling a cold brush along their arms or shoulders, an experience that often coincides with an awareness of being observed. These sudden chills contribute to a heightened sense of presence, making the small theater feel larger and more alive than its physical dimensions would suggest. Cold drafts at Stage 773 are rarely frightening, but they leave a lingering impression that the energy of past performers or visitors continues to inhabit the space. Shadows moving across walls and corners of rehearsal rooms are another frequent occurrence. Staff and performers have described seeing dark shapes flit along walls or across floors, often disappearing when directly approached. These shadows are usually human-shaped or vaguely humanoid, appearing to move with purpose or even mimic the movements of those present. One actor recounted rehearsing a monologue late at night when a shadow moved across the opposite wall, matching gestures as if practicing alongside them. The figure vanished the moment the actor turned, leaving only the echo of movement and a faint, inexplicable sense of connection. These shadows create an atmosphere in which the past seems to linger, a reminder that every rehearsal, every performance, and every moment spent on the stage leaves an imprint that may persist in ways beyond human perception. Whispers from unseen performers are also reported within Stage 773. Actors and staff have heard faint voices during rehearsals, murmurings that seem to come from the wings, the balcony, or even the dressing rooms. These whispers are often indistinct, occasionally seeming to echo lines from previous performances or fragments of conversations from decades past. Some performers have reported the sensation of guidance in these whispers, as though unseen hands or minds are offering subtle instruction or feedback. While the voices are rarely audible enough to discern words clearly, their presence creates an impression of the theater as a living, interactive space where the energy of past performers continues to engage with the present. The architecture of Stage 773 contributes to the perception of supernatural activity. Its small, enclosed spaces, Reflective surfaces and low ceilings allow sound, light, and shadow to behave unpredictably. Footsteps and creaks echo in ways that can mimic the presence of another person, while flickering light reflects off walls and mirrors to produce fleeting illusions of movement. The intimacy of the theater, combined with its history of rehearsals and performances, creates an environment in which lingering energy is easily perceived, making visitors feel as though the past is present and attentive. Staff who work regularly in the theater have developed a respect for its unusual energy. Stagehands, technicians, and performers approach the building with awareness, accepting the possibility of unseen presences while continuing their work. For many, these phenomena are not threatening. Instead, they are embraced as part of the theater's identity, a tangible connection to its history and the countless artists who have shaped the space over the years. Some performers find inspiration in the presence of shadows or whispers, interpreting them as encouragement from those who once devoted themselves to performance in the theater's rooms and on its stage. Even visitors who are not directly involved in performances sometimes feel the theater's energy. Patrons arriving early or staying after shows often sense an intangible awareness, a feeling of being observed, or a subtle tension in the air that cannot be explained by ordinary factors. These sensations, coupled with flickering lights, moving shadows, and sudden chills, create a unique experience in which the theater's past is constantly present, enhancing the intimacy and emotional impact of the space. Ultimately, Stage 773 represents a unique intersection of art, history, and the unexplained. Its flickering lights, cold drafts, moving shadows, and whispered voices suggest that the theater is not merely a venue but a living repository of memory, creativity, and lingering energy. For performers, staff, and visitors, Stage 773 offers more than a physical space for rehearsal and performance. It provides a connection to generations of artists who came before, a space where the echoes of their work continue to resonate. The Chicago Magic Lounge Theater, located in the heart of the Loop, is a unique venue devoted to the art of magic, illusion, and performance. Since its opening, it has been a gathering place for both seasoned magicians and enthusiasts, eager to experience the thrill of live tricks and close-up illusions. The theater itself is steeped in charm and mystery, with its vintage decor, velvet curtains, and dimly lit stage, creating an atmosphere perfect for the performance of sleight of hand, misdirection, and the unexplainable. Yet beyond the crafted illusions and performances, the Magic Lounge carries a reputation for paranormal activity, lending an unexpected edge to the experience. Visitors and staff alike have reported moving shadows, lights flickering independently, and objects appearing to float in mid-air phenomena that seem to suggest that the theater's magic extends beyond what can be explained by technique or technology. One of the most frequently reported phenomena at the Chicago Magic Lounge Theater is the movement of shadows. Staff and patrons alike have described dark shapes gliding along walls, across the stage, and near backstage areas, often disappearing the moment they are observed directly. These shadows are sometimes humanoid in appearance, moving with deliberate purpose, as though performing unseen routines for a phantom audience. A magician practicing late one evening recounted seeing a shadow follow his gestures while rehearsing a complicated card trick, as if another performer were practicing alongside him. The figure vanished when he turned, leaving behind only the lingering sense of presence and a faint, inexplicable chill. Many believe that these shadows represent the lingering spirits of magicians who once performed at the theater, continuing their craft in silence and obscurity. Lights flickering and dimming unexpectedly is another hallmark of the theater's paranormal reputation. Stage lights, chandeliers, and wall sconces have been known to brighten and fade without explanation, even in rooms with fully inspected and functioning electrical systems. Performers report that the lights often respond in patterns that coincide with dramatic movements or gestures, sometimes dimming during a climactic moment of a trick or brightening as if highlighting an invisible assistant. Technical staff, have tried to track the source of these anomalies, yet no mechanical cause has ever been discovered. For visitors, these spontaneous light fluctuations heighten the sense of mystery, blurring the line between the crafted illusions of the magician and the inexplicable events that seem to occur naturally within the space. Perhaps the most startling phenomena reported at the Magic Lounge Theater involve objects that appear to float or move on their own. Chairs, small props, and even playing cards have been seen to lift or drift slightly, hovering for brief moments before returning to their original positions. These occurrences are usually fleeting, yet they leave a strong impression on witnesses, particularly when no one is nearby to cause the movement. Magicians themselves, accustomed to manipulating objects with stagehand, often find these incidents unnerving precisely because they defy explanation. One stagehand described seeing a deck of cards slowly rise from a table and hover mid-air for several seconds before falling, as if an unseen hand were performing a trick for no audience. The theater's architecture seems to amplify these unusual experiences. Its intimate spaces, low ceilings, and reflective surfaces create environments in which light, shadow, and sound interact in unpredictable ways. Footsteps echo along corridors, producing the impression of movement in otherwise empty spaces, while flickering lights reflect off mirrors and polished surfaces to create fleeting illusions. The theater's vintage decor and close quarters make every creak of a floorboard, every shifting shadow, and every subtle movement feel immediate and personal. This combination of history, performance, and intimacy allows the energy of the past to interact with the present, making visitors and performers alike feel that the theater is alive with unseen activity. Staff and performers at the Chicago Magic Lounge Theater have learned to navigate its haunted reputation with a mixture of caution and respect. Stagehands and magicians often treat unexplained phenomena as part of the theater's character, acknowledging that the energy of previous performers may still linger. Some performers even find inspiration in these occurrences, feeling that the presence of past magicians adds a layer of authenticity and continuity to their own performances. Rather than fear, many embrace the theater's haunted edge as an extension of its magical atmosphere, enhancing both the thrill of the performance and the mystique of the environment. Visitors occasionally sense the theater's unusual energy even without directly witnessing shadows or floating objects. Patrons have reported the sensation of being observed. Subtle changes in temperature and faint, inexplicable noises, whispers, footsteps, or rustling objects emanating from empty corners or backstage areas. These subtle manifestations contribute to the theater's enigmatic atmosphere, reinforcing the idea that stage audience and performer exist within a space where the unseen is just as present as the scene, where the boundary between reality and illusion is intentionally blurred. Ultimately, the Chicago Magic Lounge Theater represents a rare intersection of performance, history, and the paranormal. Its flickering lights, moving shadows, and floating objects suggest that the building is not merely a venue, but a repository for the energy of past magicians, an environment where the echoes of their craft continue to linger. For performers, staff, and visitors, the theater is more than a space for tricks and illusions. It is a living, breathing stage where history, artistry, and the unexplained converge. Porchlight Music Theater, located in Chicago's Lakeview neighborhood, is a celebrated venue for musical theater, known for its dynamic performances, intimate atmosphere, and dedication to showcasing both contemporary and classic productions. While the theater is cherished for its artistry and community presence, it has also developed a reputation for paranormal activity. Actors, stagehands, and staff have reported experiences that suggest the theater is home to more than just the living. Ghostly apparitions in the wings, flickering lights, and chairs that move on their own have all been documented, creating an air of mystery that complements the theater's vibrant energy. Some performers have even reported feeling the presence of someone watching rehearsals from the shadows, a silent observer whose origins are unknown but whose influence is unmistakable. One of the most commonly reported phenomena at Porchlight Music Theater is the appearance of ghostly figures in the wings. Staff and performers have described seeing silhouettes that seem to follow the movements of actors on stage, often appearing at the edge of vision before vanishing when looked at directly. These apparitions are sometimes described as distinctly human, with movements that suggest purpose and intent. One actor recalled rehearsing a solo number late in the evening when he noticed a dark figure standing just behind the curtain. The presence was silent and still, yet it seemed aware of his every gesture. When he turned to acknowledge it, the figure disappeared, leaving only the sensation of being watched and the eerie feeling that it had been observing his performance with interest. Flickering lights are another hallmark of the theater's unusual activity. During rehearsals, stage lights and house lights occasionally dim, brighten, or pulse unpredictably. Electrical inspections and maintenance have found no faults. Yet the phenomenon continues, often coinciding with dramatic moments or particularly emotional sections of a performance. Some performers have noticed that the lights react in ways that seem almost conscious, dimming during quiet passages and brightening at moments of intensity. Technicians and stagehands report similar occurrences in dressing rooms and hallways, suggesting that the effect is not limited to the stage itself. The unpredictable lighting adds a layer of tension and anticipation to rehearsals, making the theater feel as though it is alive and responding to the energy of those within it. Chairs and furniture, moving on their own, are also frequently reported in rehearsal spaces and backstage areas. Performers and staff have noticed chairs slightly shifted from their original positions, sometimes angled or moved entirely across a room. These movements occur even when the space has been secured overnight, with no one present to account for the change. A stagehand once found a row of chairs on the side of the rehearsal room, subtly rearranged, as if aligned to watch the performers. While these incidents are not aggressive or threatening, they contribute to the sense that the theater is inhabited by unseen presences who interact with the environment in subtle but unmistakable ways. Many performers describe the sensation of being observed, particularly during late-night rehearsals when the theater is empty, except for the cast. Some feel eyes on them from the shadows, a quiet awareness that follows them across the stage or through the wings. This presence is often described as neutral or even supportive, as if an unseen mentor or former performer is silently guiding the rehearsal. Others experience moments of unease, sensing that the silent observer is more than just a memory, but a lingering consciousness that refuses to leave the theater. These experiences, whether comforting or unsettling, contribute to Porchlight Music Theater's reputation as a space where the energy of past performances continues to echo in the present. The architecture of the theater seems to amplify these experiences. Its intimate layout, narrow wings, and reflective surfaces create an environment in which sound, light, and shadow behave unpredictably. Footsteps echo along hallways, shadows move with the flicker of stage lights, and mirrors in dressing rooms reflect shapes that vanish when approached. The proximity of performers to the wings, stage, and backstage areas makes the presence of unseen observers particularly noticeable. In such a compact space, the theater itself feels alive, responding to the energy of performers while preserving the memory of those who have passed through its corridors before. Staff who work regularly in the theater have learned to navigate its haunted reputation with awareness and respect. Stagehands, lighting technicians, and performers approach rehearsals and performances knowing that the space may contain unseen observers. Many consider the experiences not as threats, but as part of the theater's unique character and history. Some performers find inspiration in these encounters, interpreting the flickering lights, shifting chairs, and ghostly shadows as subtle guidance or encouragement from those who once dedicated themselves to the craft. The presence of past performers, whether felt or seen, adds a layer of depth to every rehearsal and performance. Even visitors who are not directly involved in productions sometimes feel the theater's energy. Patrons arriving early or staying after shows often notice the subtle flicker of lights, a chill in the air, or the sensation that someone is watching from the shadows. These experiences are understated but contribute to the overall ambience, reinforcing the idea that Porchlight Music Theater is more than a venue. It is a repository of memory, emotion, and artistry, a space where the past coexists with the present. Ultimately, Porchlight Music Theater embodies the intersection of creativity, history, and the unexplained. Its ghostly apparitions, flickering lights, moving chairs, and the presence of silent observers suggest that the theater is not simply a physical space, but a living environment where the echoes of past performers continue to influence the present. For staff, performers, and visitors, Porchlight offers an experience in which history, artistry, and the paranormal intersect, creating an atmosphere that is both enchanting and mysterious. Emerald City Theater, located in the heart of Chicago's Loop, is a small yet storied venue renowned for its intimate performances and dedication to showcasing a wide range of theatrical productions. Though modest in size compared to the city's larger theaters, Emerald City has built a reputation for high-quality performances and a close connection between performers and audience. Yet behind the applause and curtains, the theater carries a reputation for paranormal activity, with accounts from staff, performers, and visitors describing experiences that suggest the presence of lingering spirits. Shadows moving along corridors, flickering lights in rehearsal rooms, and ghostly applause echoing in empty spaces all contribute to a sense that Emerald City is more than just a building. It is a repository of memory energy and the traces of performances long past. One of the most frequently reported phenomena in the Emerald City Theater is the movement of shadows along its corridors. Staff and performers often describe dark shapes gliding across hallways or near doorways, sometimes following the movement of actors as they navigate the backstage area. These shadows rarely appear threatening. Instead, they are observed as purposeful and deliberate, as though the figures are rehearsing or performing silently for an unseen audience. One actor recounted working alone late one evening when a shadow moved behind him in perfect synchronization with his gestures, vanishing the moment he turned to look directly. These shadows are often interpreted as remnants of past performers, lingering in the theater to continue their craft long after their physical presence has faded. Lights flickering in rehearsal rooms are another hallmark of Emerald City's paranormal reputation. Stage lights, ceiling fixtures, and small lamps have been reported to dim, brighten, or pulse without any apparent cause. Electrical systems have been inspected thoroughly, but no malfunction has ever explained the behavior. Performers have noted that the flickering often coincides with moments of heightened emotion or dramatic intensity during rehearsals, almost as if the theater itself is responding to the energy on stage. Technicians have reported similar occurrences in dressing rooms and hallways, reinforcing the idea that the phenomenon is not limited to a single space, but is instead an aspect of the theater's broader energy. These unpredictable lights enhance the atmosphere of the theater, creating an environment where the boundary between the seen and unseen feels thin and permeable. Another striking phenomenon is ghostly applause heard after performances in empty spaces. Staff, performers, and occasional late-night visitors have reported hearing the faint sound of clapping echoing through the auditorium and hallways after the audience has departed. The applause is often intermittent, sometimes following a particularly emotional moment from a recent performance, giving the impression that unseen spectators remain to show appreciation for the actor's work. Some performers have interpreted this auditory phenomenon as the theater's way of honoring the legacy of past shows and acknowledging the ongoing presence of spirits who remain committed to the stage. The echoing applause contributes to the theater's reputation as a place where history and performance continue to intersect, even in the absence of a living audience. The architecture of Emerald City Theater seems to amplify these experiences. Its narrow corridors, compact rehearsal rooms, and reflective surfaces create conditions in which sound, light, and shadow behave in unusual and sometimes unpredictable ways. Creaks in the floorboards echo like footsteps in the hall. Shadows multiply across walls and mirrors, and lights reflect in ways that suggest movement in otherwise empty spaces. The theater's intimate design allows the presence of unseen entities to be felt immediately and personally, making visitors keenly aware of the lingering energy of past performers and events. Staff who work regularly in the theater have learned to navigate its haunted reputation with a mix of respect and awareness. Stagehands, lighting technicians, and performers approach rehearsals and performances knowing that the space may contain invisible presences. Many see these experiences not as threats, but as a part of the theater's character and history, a continuation of the dedication and artistry of those who came before. Some performers even find inspiration in these subtle phenomena, interpreting shadows, flickering lights, or ghostly applause as a reminder of the theater's enduring commitment to performance and the lasting impact of their work. Visitors and audience members also occasionally sense the theater's unusual energy, even without directly witnessing shadows or hearing phantom applause. Patrons arriving early, lingering after a show, or walking through the building's corridors often report a heightened awareness of their surroundings, a sense of being watched, or the subtle echo of activity where none should exist. These experiences, while understated, contribute to Emerald City's reputation as a space where the past and present coexist, where the energy of former performers can be felt alongside those currently on stage. Even backstage, the energy of the theater is palpable. Dressing rooms, wings, and small storage spaces occasionally produce unexpected sensations, from sudden drops in temperature to fleeting glimpses of movement in mirrors. Performers working late into the night often feel the subtle presence of someone observing or gently guiding, a silent acknowledgement from those who once worked in the same spaces. These encounters are rarely threatening. Instead, they create a sense of continuity and connection, linking the present with the theater's long and storied history. Ultimately, Emerald City Theater represents a rare intersection of performance, history, and the unexplained. Its moving shadows, flickering lights, and ghostly applause suggest that the building is not simply a venue, but a living repository of artistry and memory. For staff, performers, and visitors alike, the theater offers an experience in which the echoes of past performances continue to resonate, infusing the space with energy, presence, and an enduring sense of magic. The Victory Theater Annex, tucked away in Chicago's Lincoln Park neighborhood, is a modest yet historically rich space dedicated to the performing arts. Though smaller than its main theater counterpart, the Annex has earned a reputation for intimate performances, experimental productions, and a creative energy that draws performers and audiences alike. Yet beyond its charm and artistic value, the Annex carries a reputation for unexplained phenomena. Staff, performers, and visitors have all reported eerie occurrences, whispering voices from unseen sources, lights that flicker without reason, shadows that move independently of natural light, and even sensations of invisible hands brushing against actors on stage. These reports have cemented the Annex's reputation as a theater, where the boundaries between performance and the paranormal often blur. One of the most commonly reported experiences at the Victory Theater Annex involves whispering voices. Actors and stagehands have recounted hearing faint murmurs coming from the wings, rehearsal rooms, or even the empty audience area. These whispers are rarely distinct, often forming fragments of sentences or conversations that seem tied to rehearsals or performances from decades past. One performer described rehearsing a monologue late at night when she suddenly heard quiet voices, repeating lines she had just spoken, as if an unseen audience or ghostly fellow performer were responding to her work. The whispers often vanish when one attempts to trace their source, creating a chilling yet compelling sense that the theater itself holds memory, attentive to the actions of those within it. Flickering lights are another hallmark of the Annex's paranormal activity. Stage lighting, overhead fixtures, and even small lamps in rehearsal spaces have been observed to pulse, dim, or brighten without explanation. Electrical systems are routinely inspected, yet no malfunction accounts for these incidents. Many performers note that the flickering occurs during emotionally charged moments, as if the theater responds to the intensity of the performance. Stagehands have also reported similar occurrences in dressing rooms and corridors, making it clear that the phenomena extends beyond the stage. For those present, the flickering lights contribute to a heightened sense of awareness, adding tension and a subtle reminder that the annex may be more than just a physical space for art. Shadows moving independently of natural light are among the most unsettling phenomena reported at the Victory Theater Annex. Visitors and staff often observe shapes gliding across walls or the floor, moving contrary to the angles of windows or lighting. Sometimes these shadows appear humanoid, other times abstract, flitting along corridors or across rehearsal spaces. One actor, practicing alone late in the evening, recounted seeing a dark figure move behind the curtains in perfect synchronization with his gestures, vanishing when he turned to look. Shadows are rarely threatening. Instead, they carry the sense of intention, as if they are echoes of performers from the theater's past, continuing their routines in silence. The independent movement of these shadows reinforces the idea that the annex is alive with unseen energy, creating an atmosphere where past and present coexist. Perhaps the most personal and disconcerting experiences involve sensations of invisible hands. Performers have reported feeling light brushes against their arms, shoulders, or back during rehearsals or performances, as if an unseen presence were interacting directly with them. These touches are fleeting but distinct, often coinciding with moments of dramatic intensity or vulnerability on stage. Some interpret these sensations as a guiding influence, a spirit of a past performer offering silent encouragement or correction. Others experience them as a reminder that the energy of the theater extends beyond the tangible, subtly interacting with those who dedicate themselves to the craft within its walls. The architecture of the Victory Theater Annex seems to enhance these phenomena. Its compact spaces, low ceilings, narrow wings, and reflective surfaces create conditions in which sound, light, and shadow behave unpredictably. Floorboards creak in ways that mimic footsteps. Reflections in mirrors produce fleeting illusions. And corners, shrouded in shadow, can appear to conceal figures that vanish upon closer inspection. This intimate environment allows performers and staff to feel the presence of unseen forces acutely, making the theater itself feel alive and responsive to the energy of those who work and perform there. Staff and performers who spend significant time in the annex have developed a mixture of respect and awareness for its haunted reputation. Stagehands, lighting technicians, and actors learn to navigate the corridors and rehearsal spaces with sensitivity, understanding that shadows, whispers, and flickering lights are considered part of the theater's identity. Many performers interpret these occurrences not as threats, but as subtle reminders of the theater's history, a way of connecting with those who came before. The presence of unseen hands or attentive whispers can even serve as inspiration, a quiet acknowledgement that the dedication of past performers continues to resonate in the space. Even visitors who are not involved in performances often sense the theater's unique energy. Patrons arriving early or lingering after shows sometimes report subtle chills, the sensation of being observed, or brief glimpses of movement in empty rooms. These understated experiences reinforce the impression that the Victory Theater Annex is not merely a physical venue, but a living repository of memory, emotion, and artistry, a place where the echoes of past performances continue to influence the present. Ultimately, the Victory Theater Annex exemplifies a rare intersection of performance, history, and the unexplained. Its whispering voices, flickering lights, independent shadows, and gentle touches of invisible hands suggest that the building preserves the energy of those who have dedicated themselves to the stage. For performers, staff, and visitors alike, the Annex offers an experience where the creative energy of the past remains tangibly present, adding depth, intrigue, and a sense of continuity to every rehearsal and performance. The Den Theater, situated in Chicago's Near West Side, is a storied venue that has hosted countless performances, from contemporary plays to experimental productions. While it is celebrated for its dedication to the arts and its intimate connection between performers and audience, the theater has also gained a reputation for paranormal activity. Staff, performers, and visitors alike have reported a range of unusual phenomena, including shadows pacing the aisles, lights flickering unpredictably, and phantom performers moving silently through the wings. Some witnesses have even claimed that apparitions appeared to repeat gestures and movements from decades past, as if reliving performances long ago. These reports have given the Den Theater a reputation not only as a space of creativity and artistry, but also as a place where history and the unexplained intersect. One of the most commonly reported experiences at the Den Theater involves shadows moving along the aisles. Visitors and staff often describe seeing dark figures gliding between seats, sometimes pausing as though observing the stage, only to vanish when directly approached. These shadows are rarely threatening. Instead, they convey a sense of intent and presence, as though the spirits are engaged in their own ongoing performance or quietly witnessing the acts on stage. An actor recounting a late rehearsal described noticing a figure pacing the aisle behind the seats, moving in time with the cadence of the lines being spoken on stage. When he turned to confront it, the figure vanished, leaving only the lingering sense of being observed by something beyond the physical world. Lights flickering without cause are another hallmark of the theater's paranormal reputation. Stage lights, ceiling fixtures, and small lamps often dim, brighten, or pulse unpredictably during rehearsals and performances. These flickers occur even when electrical systems are fully operational and regularly inspected, ruling out conventional explanations. Technicians working behind the scenes have also reported seeing lights flicker in dressing rooms and backstage corridors, reinforcing the idea that the theater's energy is not confined to the stage, but permeates the entire space. For both performers and audience members, these inexplicable lighting anomalies contribute to a heightened sense of presence and awareness. Phantom performers in the wings are another frequently reported phenomenon. Actors, stagehands, and visitors have described seeing figures that appear to be dressed in period costumes, moving with the precision of rehearsed gestures. These apparitions often mimic the movements of the living actors on stage, as if practicing alongside them or preparing for a performance long past. One performer recounted noticing a figure leaning against a wing wall, mirroring her gestures while she delivered a monologue. When she paused to acknowledge it, the figure vanished without a trace. Such experiences suggest that the energy of past performances remains embedded in the theater, replaying itself for those sensitive enough to notice. The Den Theater's architecture contributes to the perception of its haunted atmosphere. Its intimate auditorium, narrow wings, and reflective surfaces create conditions in which sound, light, and shadow behave unpredictably. Footsteps echo through empty corridors, creating the impression of movement in otherwise deserted spaces. Mirrors in dressing rooms and backstage areas occasionally reflect fleeting shapes or silhouettes that disappear when approached. The combination of small spaces, polished surfaces, and close proximity between stage and audience amplifies the sensation of unseen presence, making every creak, flicker, and shadow feel immediate and personal. Performers and staff who spend significant time in the theater often approach these phenomena with respect and cautious awareness. Stagehands, lighting technicians, and actors understand that shadows, flickering lights, and phantom figures are considered part of the theater's character. Many view these experiences as a connection to the history of the space, a subtle reminder of the dedication and artistry of those who performed before them. Some performers even find inspiration in these encounters, interpreting shadows, flickering lights, or phantom movements as a form of encouragement or guidance from the theater's lingering energy. Even audience members occasionally sense the unusual energy of the Den Theater. Patrons arriving early or staying after performances have reported subtle chills, fleeting glimpses of movement, and an intangible sense of being observed. These experiences are often understated but contribute to the theater's reputation as a space where the past continues to live alongside the present, where the energy of prior performances is preserved and felt. Backstage areas, wings, and dressing rooms are particularly active with reports of paranormal activity. Some performers working late into the night feel subtle touches or the sensation of someone moving near them, invisible to the eye, yet undeniable in presence. The walls, floors, and ceilings seem to carry memory, retaining fragments of performances, gestures, and moments from decades of theater history. These lingering impressions contribute to a sense that the theater is not merely a building, but a living repository of energy and artistry. Ultimately, the Din Theater embodies the intersection of art, history, and the unexplained. Its moving shadows, flickering lights, phantom performers, and repeated gestures suggest that the theater is more than a venue. It is a space where the dedication of past performers continues to resonate. For staff, performers, and visitors alike, the theater offers a unique experience in which history, creativity, and the paranormal coexist, creating an environment that is both inspiring and mysterious. The Royal George Theater, nestled in the heart of Chicago's Loop, is a small, yet historically significant venue, renowned for its intimate performances and enduring dedication to the performing arts. Though modest in size compared to the city's larger theaters, it has long been a hub for creative expression, hosting plays, musicals, and experimental productions. Yet beyond its artistic reputation, the Royal George carries a legacy of unexplained phenomena, earning it a reputation as a haunted space. Staff, performers, and visitors alike have reported a range of eerie experiences: shadows moving along hallways, sudden flickering of lights, and the sensation of a cold presence watching from the wings. These reports have created a unique atmosphere in which the past seems to linger, influencing every rehearsal and performance with a quiet, spectral presence. Shadows along the hallways are one of the most commonly reported phenomena at the Royal George. Staff and performers frequently describe dark figures gliding through corridors, sometimes appearing to pause or observe those passing by. These shadows often move with purpose and sometimes seem to mimic the actions of performers or patrons from long ago. One actor recounted rehearsing a monologue late one evening when a dark silhouette appeared in the hallway outside the dressing rooms. The figure mirrored the actor's gestures for a brief moment before vanishing entirely. Such encounters are rarely threatening. Instead, they convey a sense of continued presence, as though those who once frequented the theater remain tied to its walls, quietly watching and interacting with the living. Flickering lights are another hallmark of the theater's paranormal reputation. Stage lights, chandeliers, and even small lamps in the wings have been observed to dim, brighten, or pulse without explanation. Electrical systems have been thoroughly inspected, and yet no fault has been discovered. Many performers note that the lights often flicker during moments of heightened emotion or dramatic tension, almost as if the theater itself responds to the energy on stage. Technicians and stagehands have reported similar occurrences in rehearsal rooms and backstage corridors, suggesting that these anomalies are not isolated but rather permeate the entire building. For those present, the flickering lights serve as a subtle reminder that the theater's energy extends beyond the physical realm. The sensation of a cold presence watching from the wings is perhaps the most intimate and unsettling experience reported at the Royal George. Act 2's actors have described moments during rehearsals when a sudden chill passes over them, accompanied by the feeling of being observed by an unseen entity. Some interpret this presence as a former performer, silently offering guidance or attention, while others believe it to be the lingering spirit of a patron or visitor, continuing to experience performances from beyond the physical world. One performer recalled feeling a hand, cold and weightless, brush along her shoulder as she delivered a pivotal line, leaving her shaken, yet strangely comforted by the subtle acknowledgement of an unseen audience. These encounters emphasize the theater's layered history, suggesting that the space retains emotional and energetic imprints of those who once occupied it. The architecture of the Royal George Theater seems to enhance these paranormal experiences. Its narrow corridors, low ceilings, and intimate wings create conditions in which sound, light, and shadow interact unpredictably. Footsteps echo through empty hallways, creating the impression of movement in otherwise deserted areas. Mirrors and polished surfaces occasionally reflect fleeting shapes, giving the illusion of figures just beyond perception. The theater's compact design makes every creak of a floorboard, flicker of light or shadow, crossing a wall feel immediate and personal, amplifying the sense that unseen presences are not merely observers but participants in the ongoing life of the theater. Staff who work regularly at the Royal George have learned to navigate its haunted reputation with both awareness and respect. Stagehands, lighting technicians, and actors approach their work knowing that shadows, flickering lights, and unseen presences are part of the theater's character. Many view these experiences not as threats, but as connections to the past, subtle reminders of the dedication, artistry, and passion of those who came before. Some performers find inspiration in these phenomena, interpreting the presence of shadows or cold sensations as encouragement, a silent affirmation from the theater itself that their work is part of a continuum stretching across decades. Visitors and audience members sometimes sense the theater's unusual energy as well. Patrons arriving early, lingering after shows, or walking through the corridors have reported chills, fleeting glimpses of movement, or the subtle sensation of being watched. These understated experiences contribute to the Royal George's mystique, reinforcing the notion that it is more than a venue for performance. It is a living space where the echoes of past patrons and performers continue to resonate. The energy of those long gone seems to remain woven into the theater's walls, blending seamlessly with the creativity and emotion of the living. Even backstage, the theater exerts a quiet influence. Dressing rooms, wings, and rehearsal spaces occasionally produce sudden chills, inexplicable sounds, or shadows that appear and vanish. Performers working late often feel a presence moving nearby, observing their actions, or even gently guiding them. These experiences, though subtle, remind those present that the Royal George is a place where time, energy, and memory intersect, where the dedication of past performers and patrons continues to leave its mark on the theater's present life. Ultimately, the Royal George Theater represents a unique intersection of artistry, history, and the unexplained. Shadows along hallways, flickering lights, and cold presences in the wings suggest that the building is more than a physical venue. It is a living repository of creative energy and memory. For performers, staff, and visitors alike, the theater offers an experience in which the past remains tangible, influencing the present and infusing every rehearsal and performance with an enduring sense of mystery. The Uptown Underground Theater, nestled beneath the bustling streets of Chicago's uptown neighborhood, is a small but storied venue that has earned a reputation for both its intimate performances and its unusual, unexplained phenomena. Though modest in size, it has long been a hub for experimental theater, musical productions, and community performances. Beyond the artistry and energy that the living bring to the space, the theater is known for its haunted presence. Visitors, performers, and staff have reported flickering lights, shadowy figures moving across the stage, and even phantom applause echoing through empty auditoriums. These accounts suggest that the Uptown Underground is more than a mere performance space. It is a place where the energy of past actors and stagehands lingers, replaying routines long after the final curtain has fallen. One of the most frequently reported phenomena at the Uptown Underground Theater is the flickering of lights without cause. Stage lights, ceiling fixtures, and small lamps in rehearsal areas often dim, brighten, or pulse unpredictably. Electrical inspections and maintenance have consistently found no faults, leaving the causes unexplained. Performers often notice that the flickering occurs during emotionally intense scenes or pivotal moments in rehearsals, as if the theater itself responds to the energy on stage. Stagehands have reported similar incidents in backstage corridors, dressing rooms, and even in the wings, reinforcing the sense that the entire space is subtly alive, responsive to the actions of those within it. For actors, the sudden flicker of light can be both eerie and oddly motivating, a reminder that the theater is an entity with memory, energy, and presence. Shadowy figures on stage are another hallmark of the Uptown Underground's haunted reputation. Performers, technicians, and late-night visitors have reported seeing dark shapes moving across the stage during rehearsals or after performances have ended. Sometimes, these figures appear to mimic movements of actors currently on stage, as if continuing a practice or performance from decades past. One actor recounted a late rehearsal where a silhouette appeared at the edge of the stage, leaning in synchrony with his gestures. When he paused to observe, the figure vanished without a trace, leaving him with an eerie awareness that unseen performers still occupy the theater. These shadows are rarely menacing. Instead, they convey a sense of purpose, as if the theater itself preserves the routines and dedication of those who once performed there. Phantom applause is another phenomenon that frequently accompanies other manifestations. Staff and performers have reported hearing clapping echo through the auditorium long after the audience has departed, often following dramatic or particularly moving passages. The applause is sporadic, faint, yet unmistakable, as if an unseen audience remains to acknowledge the performances of those on stage. Some performers interpret the phantom clapping as a sign of encouragement from the spirits of past actors, a reminder that the art and dedication of theater are eternal. Others feel a more unsettling presence, a reminder that the energy of the past can linger long after the lights are extinguished and the theater has emptied. The architecture of the Uptown Underground Theater seems to enhance its spectral reputation. Its compact stage, narrow wings, low ceilings, and reflective surfaces create conditions in which sound, light, and shadow behave unpredictably. Footsteps echo in empty corridors, shadows stretch along walls, and the faint creak of floorboards can resemble the pacing of unseen actors. Mirrors and glass surfaces in dressing rooms sometimes reflect fleeting images or silhouettes that vanish upon closer inspection. The intimate design allows performers and staff to experience paranormal occurrences acutely, making every flicker of light, every movement in the corner of the eye, and every echo of applause feel immediate and personal. Staff and performers who work regularly in the theater approach its haunted reputation with respect and cautious awareness. Stagehands, lighting technicians, and actors understand that shadows, flickering lights, and phantom applause are considered part of the theater's character and history. Many view these occurrences as reminders of the dedication, passion, and artistry of those who worked in the space before them. Some performers draw inspiration from these subtle phenomena, interpreting flickering lights or shadowy figures as encouragement or guidance from the theater's lingering energy. Rather than feeling threatened, they often feel a sense of continuity, a connection to the long line of artists who have left their mark on the stage. Even audience members can occasionally sense the theater's unusual energy. Patrons arriving early or lingering after shows may notice faint movements in the wings, feel sudden chills, or hear the faint echo of applause in empty seats. These understated experiences contribute to the Uptown Underground's mystique, emphasizing that the theater is more than a venue. It is a living space where the echoes of past performances coexist with the present, where memory, creativity, and the unexplained intersect. Backstage areas, wings, and dressing rooms are particularly active with reports of paranormal activity. Performers often feel subtle presences, unexplained touches, or fleeting glimpses of movement in mirrors. Shadows flit along walls, lights pulse unpredictably, and the atmosphere seems charged with the memory of past rehearsals and performances. For those sensitive to such things, the theater is a space where time collapses, allowing the past to bleed into the present and create a unique, immersive experience. Ultimately, the Uptown Underground Theater embodies the intersection of art, history, and the unexplained. Flickering lights, shadowy figures, and phantom applause suggest that the theater is more than a physical structure. It is a living repository of performance, energy, and memory. For performers, staff, and visitors, it offers an experience in which the dedication of past actors and stagehands continues to resonate, influencing the present and infusing every rehearsal and performance with an aura of mystery. And there you have it, 25 haunted theaters in Chicago where lights flicker alone, shadows move across empty stages, and spirits refuse to leave the spotlight. These theaters remind us that some performances never end, and some actors never take their final bow. If this journey into Chicago's haunted theaters sent chills down your spine, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss another ghostly tale. Until next time, Tread carefully along aisles and backstage corridors, because some spirits are still waiting in the wings.